Hello, guys. They've added a million more features to live since I went, so this is kind of like but yeah. So thanks for joining. This is going to be a bit of a Christian witch question and answer with Lina the Jesus Witch. Unfortunately, Stegas Senia couldn't join us tonight, but that's okay. We're still gonna have a lot of fun. What's up, you? What's going on? Oh, okay. So yeah, there's Lina. Yeah, here we go.
Hello.
Hello, Lina. What's going on?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Can't
So
complain.
yeah, unfortunately, I turned on the live and I was like, there are so many buttons and I don't know what any of them do. So I was like, I definitely know where I'm going with this. But yeah. So unfortunately, Spiger couldn't join us tonight. She's got something that came up. But I figure like I don't know about you, but I've been seeing 1,002 questions pop up. And so I figure now is as good as time as any to just kind of like answer as many that pop up at once, see
Heck
what we can
yeah.
do, talk about Jesus and magic and all things in between.
Yeah, let's do that. Like anything.
Hey, Roxana, hello from America. It's so cool that you're joining from Poland. You guys must be like, well, it must be like early in the morning for you. What you do? I'm always like, why are y'all
Right?
up past 10 p.m. Go to bed. What's up,
Hello.
Mimi? Hello.
Mimi.
Hi, hi, spirits. What's going on? I'm live. It's
It's
1 a.m.
1
Okay,
a.m. Dude, you need to go to
it's the
bed. Like,
weekend.
I don't
I
know.
I will allow it for the weekend, but generally I'm in bed by like 10.
That's this whole week I've been in bed at like 7. I'm like, oh.
Oh my God. No, I was telling my boyfriend earlier, I was like, I remember in high school when I hit this point where I just realized that I didn't need to be conscious anymore. I was like, I'm just sitting on my computer, I'm not doing anything, so I might as well go to bed.
Hmm.
I would go to bed at like 7, 8, at like as an 18-year-old teenager.
Because why do you need to be awake? Like honestly.
That's what I said. I was
Like
like,
there's no point.
I don't. But
Same.
and friend's place I came up, but thank you very much, Witches Persona. Thank you. I'm glad you could just stop by.
Oh, George. I love doing readings for George and his fiance. They're so fun.
That's like so cool that you can just kind of do readings on here because like for the most part I just have it as like part of my Patreon because I like to just do it in my space and then like send a written like a long written thing. If I do it in front of people, I'm like,
No.
uh.
I cannot for the life of me write down a reading because it comes to me so like quick that like my fingers and my brain don't work that fast. I have to always record them. So even like when I
Oh
do them
yeah, that's
other
fair.
places, they're always like a video because it's just easier.
No, yeah, I feel that. For me, it's
But
like I don't care what anyone says. I always use the booklets that come with the tarot cards because they're good.
they
And
are good.
I feel like whoever I'm talking to picks depending on the language of the books more
Hmm.
than the deck themselves because the language of the books like differs so radically.
That is so interesting. And I feel like that just speaks to like your more writer reader brain and mine as like a more like speaking and verbal and like visual brain.
Mm.
Because for me, like my deities, they pick the deck that they want based on the way that it looks. So like Lilith, she picked this like everyday witch deck. And I had originally bought that as just used like as a personal like me deck. And she was like, no, 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 I'm taking that. And I think she liked it because it was like a little bit more like spooky and definitely very like feminist and like very like powerful women imagery. Whereas like the Abrahamic God picked the goddess picked the light seers deck, which is more like flowy and like ethereal and pretty sort of thing. So it's like very interesting that there's a differentiation there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess Spears, you read tarot my way or Lena's way? Because for me, it's like I've had some beings pick decks, and I'm like, this is very much not the aesthetic I imagined for you. And then I read the booklet and I'm like, oh, that's why, because the language here is very much like I have some decks that like the same exact card, they'll be like, this card means you suck and you should feel bad. And like the same card in another booklet will be like, you just gotta try a little harder.
I definitely think it depends on the author. Do you have any tips for your
Yeah.
calling?
LGBT Catholic, considering getting back into the faith. Yes, honestly, I grew up Catholic too. I am bisexual. As far as I'm concerned, first of all, it's absolutely no one's business what your sexual orientation is. So if you're going into a church and
Facts.
that's like one of the first things they ask you, it's like, "Hi, do you want my social security number too?" Like, goddamn. But second of all, second of all, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being your own self. Like there a lot of the verses that people use as clobber verses, just like with witchcraft, they're not really about homosexuality. They're about like very different specific cultural practices that were like not awesome in Rome. And
Yeah.
so those things we don't really got to worry about that anymore. Like unless you're out here taking advantage of like young servant boys, I don't think you got
Yeah.
to worry about what the Bible says about it.
That's literally what I was gonna say because the when they looked at like the specific language, I forgot the exact word. I think it was like a erythrococci or something like that. It's like something really weird and Greek sounding. When they looked at the original Bible text and then tried to find this specific word that had been translated to homosexual in our Today Bible, the only place that they ever found it was in an instance of a Greek writing of Zeus taking advantage of a younger boy. So it's more
Right.
likely that those verses are alluding to doing inappropriate acts with minors versus actually, same sex, consensual same sex relationships between two people who know what's going on, sort of thing. There's also like resource wise, there's a podcast that I really, 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 really love. It actually is one of the things that helped me deconstruct out of the church. It's called the Yes Jesus podcast, YASS Jesus podcast, and it's run
Mm-hmm.
by two like openly gay men who are also Christian. One of them is like an ex like evangelical TV producer or something. Like he was like hardcore in the faith for a long, long time. And they do like Bible stories through like a queer lens, and they also like dissect each verse in like a different way. It's really great resource. I highly recommend it.
No, yeah, absolutely. And Spears has a good point too. Like, yeah, the cultural sense around sex in general is so radically different.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that word is like arsenokote or something. But that's
There
that's
you
kind of what
go.
it was. It wasn't like just the sex. It was the fact that it was specifically meant to be a humiliating and demeaning position for the younger boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like not it's because like the idea of being the top basically was meant that you had power and social, street cred and all that other stuff. So if you were bottoming, it's because you had literally nothing and it was a humiliating place to be. And like everyone was
Yeah.
like, that kind of sucks, Rome. Why do you act like this?
No, that's definitely part of it. It was very much looked at degrading, like to degrade other people, sort of
Mm.
thing. Mimi, that's the name of the podcast. It just has a space in between Yas and Jesus.
And I
Um,
think another thing is that like this is okay, so in terms of me with my witchcraft and everything else I believe around God, to me it's just like the only question you have to ask yourself is does this hurt innocent people? If it
yeah,
hurts
right.
innocent people, it's not of God, like point blank simple.
That's
That's the real
exactly it.
discernment. I get so many
What
people
is
in my
it?
comments like you have to test the spirits and it's like you have to test the people around you. If they believe things that hurt innocent people, it's not godly at all. Like
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. What's the verse? It's in I believe it's like First John 4. It says like those who love have seen God. So if
mm,
people's doctrine is not loving, is it really godly? That's the question that
exactly.
I ask.
Right.
Okay, George asks us, what are your views on baneful magic and how has the Bible shaped them? Do you want to go first on that one?
Um Well, for me, I have like a personal like aversion to baneful stuff just because I feel like baneful magic is an easy place to overstep with your ego. I feel like
Hmm.
that's a large part of why people should avoid it is because it's like we can say it's for the right reasons, but at the end of the day, there is a bit of ego in like striking at somebody, in my opinion.
Yep.
So my most baneful, I actually kind of use blessings banefully if I'm gonna do anything like that, where like I bless them with the knowledge of what they've done, the gravity of it, or bless them
Yep.
with like growth. Growth can be pretty painful.
Yep.
So,
That's exactly it. I call that justice magic instead of baneful
mm,
magic because in reality, you're just asking God to teach that person like what they did. Like you're not really asking for bad karma to be thrown their way. You're not asking for them to be put in the same situation that you were put in. You're really just asking for them to be able to sit back and look at the situation, look at the way that they hurt you, evaluate from that, and grow. And I don't feel like it comes from a place of like wanting to hurt somebody or like, like you said, baneful. I totally agree with baneful magic coming from a place of pride. In a lot of circumstances, I know me personally, the reason that I work with Jesus as my main deity is I struggle a lot with anger issues, and at least in the past I've struggled a lot with like anger issues and really like wanting a sense of revenge against other people
mm,
and like so in my practice and like trying to be like a better person, it doesn't make sense for me to do baneful magic because that's just kind of like stepping back into that space of being very angry
right.
and like wanting revenge. But I definitely do ask like God to be like, hey, like, that person, what they did wasn't cool. Can you like, show them? And I won't like, this is just a personal conviction that I have. But I won't do like justice magic for like months on until a situation has really like brewed to the point where I feel like something magical needs to take place because it's like a last resort. I really want the cards
Right.
to fall where they need to fall. But if they're obviously not doing that and like this person is just continuing to either like hurt you, hurt other people, or there's really like no justice being like served anywhere, you know what I'm saying? That's when I kind of explore that option. But I definitely think that it's something that should be taken very, very, very like heavily,
Yeah,
not with like a grain of
exactly.
salt. Yeah, that's definitely it.
And actually, and Mimi was saying like my biggest baneful is just return to sender. I like return to senders mostly because I'm like, if you're willing to give this to me, you must be okay with having it back. If not, why did you give it to me?
See,
It's just like,
I don't do return to senders because like I feel like again that's like a place of like giving somebody karma. One thing I will do is if I know somebody has either like thrown a curse my way, a hex my way, or like has like I've had instances where I've had people like steal like blatantly steal like my like product ideas and stuff.
mm,
I will do magic where I will bless the people around them and not them, but like the people around them.
yes, that's oh my God, I love baneful blessings. Baneful blessings are like the because like
It's so
mostly
petty.
yeah, exactly. I just suck. So like I love doing petty stuff like that, but also like I don't know, for me I'm actually the farthest I'll go to genuine baneful is like a binding. I remember one time I did a binding on someone because they would not leave my family alone.
Oh
And I was
gosh.
like they were just
No,
doing the
sometimes you
most
gotta go.
ridiculous stuff. It was stressing my parents out, it was stressing me out because they would not leave the family alone. And I made it explicitly clear, I'm like, I don't want to hurt this person. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I just want to put them like in a glass jar basically and bury them outside. Tie them up
Oh,
and bury them in the yard. And now
yeah.
they it stopped. I was like, just stay outside. And like that's the kind of stuff that I do if it's really bad. But
Yeah.
what's going on?
There are
Mo,
like
how are
in
you?
those, yeah, Mo, hello, she popped in here. In my practice, there are like specific clothes things that I'll do that are kind of
Hey
similar to
there.
that, but I can't like obviously like they're not like for everybody to do because they come from like a specific practice sort of thing. But yeah, I think but
Yeah.
I don't even think binding spells are painful in a way if you're kind of just getting them to like leave you alone and you're not
Yeah,
wishing
I'm just
anything
like I
bad
don't want
on
you to
them.
yeah, it's like there's I literally made explicit clear I don't want anything bad to happen to this person. I just want them to like stop bothering us. And as Libra was saying, the situation that's an I Libra, I love that line of thought too, where I'm just like, I'll let God fix it. Because if I fix it,
Yeah.
I'm going to jail. Which
Yo,
is
no, but like
actually
seriously, there was one time where I was driving and I was being like, I wasn't going slow and I was in the fast lane. I was keeping up, and this big truck comes right up behind me and starts flashing me for me to go faster or like move out of the way because I'm in like a mom van or whatever. And so, I got intimidated and I moved over. And then all of it, he like, goes up, but then all of a sudden you see like a bigger truck go right up his butt and start flashing him. And then my Lilith song came on, and I'm like, oh, yes, you handled that one. I didn't have to do anything there. Thank you.
God. Oh, I love it. I love stuff like that. No, for me it's just like I'm oblivious. I probably get hexed now and again and I like don't notice because I would be afraid for someone who tried. Not because I specifically do anything, but because like my guardian angel is kind of like intense. I wouldn't want to be the one on the receiving end of whatever he does.
No,
Um,
not
but
for
also
nothing though.
Roxana.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, Roxana says, do you consider Mary a deity? I don't.
I
I
don't.
don't think anyone is a deity except God. And like, I consider Jesus and the Holy Spirit as like different facets of God, like God the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
It's all like if you think of a Greek god, right? They have different titles, whereas like
Hmm.
Apollo can be a god of healing or of poison, depending on which epithet you're invoking. It's kind of like that to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I don't really see like Jesus as a god, Mary as a god. The saints are not gods for me, like sort of
Mm,
thing. I definitely see them as like ascended masters, and
yeah.
like they're probably like as close to deity as like a human could get, like sort of thing.
No, yeah, and it's like it's crazy because like when I see Mary, like she's like large, like she's as big as the angels. She is a very big spirit, but like I feel like they get touched by God in that you can kind of see the same fire in their eyes. Like they have that same kind of burn to them that's kind of like, oh, because that's all God. Like God is the fire, so it's just like,
Hmm.
oh geez, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree too, Libra. I see the Holy Spirit as like the feminine aspect of God, but I feel like but here's the thing. I like feel like the Holy Spirit isn't like heavy enough to just be the divine feminine. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah.
God
No, I
title, I feel
agree.
like belongs to both male and female aspects, and that's something that like I've had to like come towards. I just think that there should be God, goddess sort of thing, just at the top, and then everything else, at least in the hierarchy of Christianity, follows
No, yeah,
suit.
and it's actually really funny because I see so many witches working with like the divine feminine, which would it makes sense, right, with witchcraft and stuff. But for me, it's like I always look at Mary or the Holy Spirit or anyone that I'm like, sorry, I don't talk as much because I'm so like knee deep in God and Jesus and Michael. Like I love the masculine. I really love the like Spartan
Yeah.
warrior energy.
Listen, like I love me some Ashra. I hang out with her. I hang out with Mary, especially like when my kids are driving me like absolutely up the wall. Like I'll be like,
Mm.
Mary, Mary, why would you do it? That's I'll call on her for that situation. But like I don't know. I'm a Jesus freak. I've always been like, like Jesus, Jesus, what's going on? Like it's not even like Michael or like even like, I mean like I'll get to like I also pray a lot specifically to God. And I feel like I work through a lot of like shadow stuff with him. And then like you talk to Michael a lot. I talk to St. Paul. He does not leave me alone, that dude. But
Okay, wait. Okay, this is my question for you right now. I am always like, I have my lists of like people I would consider talking to because I want to learn
yeah,
something from them. But like every time I think about talking to Paul, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to prepare myself because I told
it's like
God,
you
I
leave me
said,
alone.
Paul has until I get to him to
Yeah.
explain himself, until I reach him. And so it's like, how do you deal with Paul? Because for me, I'd look at him, I'd be like, boy, please give
I
me a
so
bone.
give me a reason. Him and I like get into it. Like I'll be like, Paul, like you understand what people like thought about your words. He's like, yeah, I get it. I'm like, but why did you write them that way? He's like, because I did. I'm like, but
Because it
why?
did.
Because I
Because it
did.
made sense at the time.
Because and that's literally it. He's like, it's made sense at the time. The women in this particular church would not shut up. Like somebody needed to tell them to shut up and sit down and listen because they weren't getting it. Like, but nobody was getting it because they were having no communication in that church whatsoever. Like, sort of thing. And he's like, I wrote that letter to that specific church. I didn't write it to everybody else, but now everybody else thinks it's for them, sort of thing. And he's like, and that happened with all of his books. I mean, like that's kind of the thing there. They're really being truly misused. And that's a big reason why I feel like I can get with him. He's definitely more of like a religious figure. Um, However, if you have like the extended Bible books, right? Acts
Hmm.
29. Oh gosh, no, I'm not drinking. This is firstly, this is a honey jar. This is water.
You
Don't
just
think
drinking
I'm
pickle
doing
juice?
weird.
Hey,
I'm not doing
I
weird
wouldn't
things.
judge
I'm
you.
not. But no,
Hello,
so
Lord.
Acts 29 is it's right here. Hold on. This book here, it's all the apocryphic books of the Bible.
Oh, I have
Huge.
the Apocrypha. I gotta get into that.
Yeah, this thing. So Acts 29 is this book, it's literally section 3, it's the last part, and it talks all about how Paul was hanging out with druids and magic people and learning from them. But that's not in
Oh,
the normal Bible. So
man,
like
this is what I'm saying. And also,
ultimately,
like, let's blame St. Augustine. St. Augustine's another one that if I ever see him in the astral, it's fisticuffs. I'm just like, dude.
are we gonna tussle?
But oh wait, someone else had a question. But yeah, I think I understand Paul better after reading that. Like, he didn't intend this for everybody. It was just
He
he
did
was
not.
responding to questions like a freaking newspaper column. But also,
Yeah,
George asked, "What do you feel is missing in the witchcraft community?"
kindness.
Oh, first of
Kindness.
all, but second of all,
Understanding.
there's a lot. There's a lot of things I feel is
Community.
missing. I feel like I'm watching. Okay, so let's back up. I remember when I was talking to Jesus and he was like, Messiah isn't one person, it's a cycle. Like every so often we get it wrong and someone has to come right the ship. Okay. And I feel like once again, we're starting with like people freeing themselves with new types of spirituality in magic and other things, but then they get sucked into the charlatans who are trying to sell them nonsense. They get sucked into like these weird holier than thou ideas, just like early
Yeah.
Christians did when they thought they were holier than the pagans that they just were the day before. Like, basically, what they're missing is actual spiritual growth, ironically.
Yeah. No, that's really it. I feel like that, like grounding, less ego needs to be in like the witchcraft community. I feel like a lot of people let ego like take over. Because ultimately, like, not for nothing, it is really powerful. It is really powerful to
Hmm.
cast a spell and then like see it work. And like especially like when you get to the point where like you're casting spells and they're like working instantaneously.
Mm.
It's a feeling that can really get to your head. And I feel like a lot of people, especially here on TikTok, and if you see, like, I don't really follow many creators here on TikTok because, like, I'm very picky with the people I let into my space and let
Mm.
influence me personally. Because I feel like a lot of people are so consumed with this ego, so consumed with this power, so consumed with, like, when their spells work and how they're like manifesting all these followers and like whatnot. And it's just very, I don't know. I feel like people need to like stay in check and like be very like go outside, touch some grass, understand that
Yeah.
like witchcraft isn't the
Remember
be
the
all end all.
mundane?
Yeah,
Also,
like
like the mundane. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, listen, spell work is great, but if you're not eating your fruits and vegetables, you're still gonna feel like shit.
yeah, right.
Point
Like
blank, period. Like,
if
I'm sorry,
all
there's no
you're
amount of magic.
drinking, if you're not drinking any water and all you're drinking is iced coffee, you're not gonna be motivated, sweetie. Like, come on,
uh,
like let's
Doing
be real.
rituals to get, yeah, doing all these rituals to get rid of anxiety. Meanwhile, they're on their fourth cup of coffee for the day. It's like,
No, that's not how it
why?
works. Um,
But no, so I guess a couple. Did you already show the extended Bible? Because
or
I
the
got a couple
book.
people asking.
This one is called The Lost Books of the Bible Great Rejected Texts by Joseph B. Lumpkin. And you can buy it on Amazon. I think it was like $30. So this is what it
Hmm,
looks like.
that's a good one.
It's thick
I got
as
the triple set. Wait, let me go find it. Which,
the triple
by the
star.
way, I'm sitting here wondering if I'm ever gonna freaking get through the Torah and the Tanakh because it's like 1,800 pages,
You'll
and
get
I'm
through
like,
it eventually.
But I got the Jewish annotated Apocrypha, so
That's so
this
cool.
this is I can't wait to get into these because this is like all the context I wanted. But Holly's asking some interesting questions, which are what are some things that are common that you haven't adapted, and what are things that aren't common that you have? Do you want to answer that one first?
Ooh, so what are some things that I have not adapted into my product? Listen, crystals. not a crystal girl. I
You
have
don't like your shiny
crystals.
rocks?
I use them sometimes in spells. Like I have them in my house. Like I use them for the aesthetic, but like no, I'm not. I don't know what every crystal means. I'm sorry. I can't. There's just so many rocks on this planet. I also do not understand the appeal. No offense to anybody. Like do what you want with your money, but like I don't understand the appeal of
How
spending
could
like
you
a
insult my
hundred
carnelian
dollars
like that?
how could you? It's like I'm not. I have a bunch of crystals. It's not like I don't have any. I'm guilty of this myself, but I really don't get the whole like buying rocks. Especially as somebody like I can go outside literally right now and like find like 17 pieces of quartz in my driveway.
Mm.
So like
Yeah,
for
that's
me, it's
that's true.
like, do I really?
Oh,
I I use crystals. I use them sometimes in my practice. Like like I'll do them in spell work. I like using them to amplify spell work, but I really don't feel like I'm like an obsessed crystal girly like everybody else. I also don't have like a cool altar space. Like I have my workspace
mm.
where I make spells for my Etsy shop and like I'll film there, especially during the winter. But that's really like an aesthetic space that was set up specifically for like TikTok, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, and that's what I use
I
them
don't,
for too. I like to just kind of set up
yeah,
like a ritual space with them, depending on their meaning, but like otherwise I don't do much with
it's
them.
not, it's not like I don't do all like the bells and whistles that I feel like are really popular on here. How about you?
I like, yeah, if I people who do a lot more with crystals, like hell yeah, more power to you. I know
Hell
that I
yeah.
like to have my polished amethyst on my altar around the rosary in front of Jesus, because like amethyst, but like this is honestly all from the Saint Dismas that I haven't cleaned up because I'm lazy. Um, but but and so with that, what are some things that like aren't normally used in like regular witchcraft that you've used?
I do a lot of song spell work. I've
Mm.
only seen one other witch on TikTok talk about it, the Stitching Witch, and they're not where I learned this from. I didn't think I made this up, but I did. I definitely didn't think people talked about it, and then when I saw them talking about it, I'm like, oh, like that's actually a thing. Like people do this, cool. But I use a lot of music for spell work. Um, it's like my jam, no pun intended. But like there will be specific situations that I've had in my life, like for justice magic, like I'll there's this one Taylor Swift song called I Bet You Think About Me, and I've
Mm.
charged
Oh,
that to
song magic,
be,
yeah.
yeah, so every time I listen to that song, I was rear-ended by a drunk driver last year, and every time I listen to that,
Mm.
she gets to think about it the way that I get to think about it all day every
Oh
day,
my
kind of
God.
thing, you know.
Oh,
So
jeez. That's
that's one
intense.
thing I do.
No, yeah. That makes
that
sense.
not a lot of people
Quickly,
do.
but no, but I kind of like I use magic to like hype myself up before magic because it's just like
That's cool.
I know that like when I was young I used to do all those like exercises where it's like you feel your magic moving through you and stuff, but like music's the easiest way for me to just like throw it all out there and
Yeah.
like make it big and loud. But before I answer the rest, I remember Libra was asking like, is it normal to feel alone as a Christian witch? Yes. Oh my
Yes.
God, yes. Yeah. Yeah, because no one seems to
Because it's
understand you.
like not
I
cool. I feel like one, it's like not. It's just like not cool. So people like don't care. They're like, "Oh, you're a Christian witch? Like, what's up with that?" But it's like if you're like, "Oh, I'm a witch who works with Loki," they're like, "Yeah, Loki." It's like
I
absolutely
mean,
ridiculous.
for me it's kind of like I describe it as like being stuck on a bridge between two kingdoms at war because it's like you can't
That's
go into
fair.
either one, you're going to get your shit eaten up. It's just like hmm. But I think that this is why it's so important to create Christian witch spaces because it's like we all get it and like, we all vibe with the occasional different god that pokes in because
Heck
they're all there.
yeah.
But like for us, we're focusing on angels, we're focusing on God, we're focusing on this specific stuff. And
Hmm.
so I think also it's kind of odd when I get people asking me things like, "Why are you a Christian? Why don't you throw off the shackles of Christianity?" And I'm like,
Well, like if at some point there's like
eh.
reclaiming it, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of
"Oh,
people have
absolutely,
reclaimed so many different things in this world, and like now I feel like it's time for Christianity to be reclaimed. Even if I personally like, I'll use the label Christian as just like a definition for people to find me, but I don't personally call myself a Christian because I don't believe a lot in the doctrine of Christianity. But I feel like there's a real importance within Christianity, within like the core message of love and giving and fellowship and community and a connection to spirit that's in Christianity. I feel like that is so important and shouldn't be lost. You know what I'm saying? So
No,
I feel like we
absolutely. And this
should
is
save Christianity.
yes, and like I literally just got this book like Wednesday off of the recommendation of my friend Father Kyle. It's like Jürgen Moltmann's The Crucified God. And like
Oh,
the first thing is he's just like, if your church is like a component of oppression, then
hmm,
you are not following the crucified God and like the meaning
no,
of God being crucified. So I'm just
that's
like,
exactly it. He
well, I don't know.
died
For
so
me,
we could be free of change. That's one thing. Like I'll never forget when I was in the cult. We went to this campus retreat. We're all like the college kids. We went on like a church retreat, right? And the theme was break every chain. And during this retreat, they talked about every single way to keep yourself chained up in Christ. Does if that makes sense? Like, like limiting the way that you think, limiting the way you dress, limiting the people that you talk to, the people you hang out with. And like, how is that having Jesus break every chain? How is that? How are you living free in Christ if you're being like, if you're like, oh, I can't wear this shirt, these, I'm gonna, make my brother stumble, sort of thing. Like, why? How is that
yeah,
being
that's
free? It's not. It's not.
and it's like it's so funky because you build empathy by encountering people who are not like you and realizing they are still people. Like, so if you
Mm.
separate yourself from everyone who's not like you are going to be a shitty person. I'm sorry, you're going to
Heck
be a terrible
yeah.
person. Like, it's there's no way to isolate yourself from people who are not like you and end up still a good person. But before I keep going, it was like I feel like I'm like missing a bunch of stuff. But no, and like all for me, it's just like people are like, why be a Christian? And it's like, I don't know, why be a Greek polytheist? Why be a Norse polytheist? Why be anything? It's because me and God are like tight. Like
I want to. I want to. At the end of the
like,
day, I want to. Okay, that's the answer.
I don't know, like I don't know what to tell them. I'm just like, I don't know. Why do you like your gods? Like, it's
Yeah,
a weird
I think
question to
he's
ask.
cool. He makes me feel safe. Like I don't know what to tell you. I like it. I've
Yeah,
been doing
he
it since
helps
I was a
me,
kid. He helps me.
and
He,
like,
he's never steered me wrong. Like my
yeah,
spells with him are good. I don't know what else to say to people. Like what's the answer to that? All right,
exactly.
Mimi
And this is
asks.
where
No, go.
we got actually. Oh, sorry,
Here,
we
I have
got
a
we got
question.
like so many questions,
I
but
have a
this
question
segue
for
is actually
Mimi. You
yeah.
want to do
Go.
yours? You do yours first, and then we'll answer Mimi's
Well, I was just
question.
saying because this conversation segues nicely into George's, which is how have Infernal shaped your practice as a Christian witch. And
Ooh.
I know that you have like Lilith going on, and for me, it's a lot of Lucifer, and occasionally King Belial and King Paimon have popped in. And I think that the biggest thing I learned from Infernals is the other side of the story, and like different perspectives, because I really do believe that like the one side and the other side have different functions. So like for me, who's already a very maybe too much assertive person and
Hmm.
really ballsy person, I don't really need the confidence or the lawlessness of King Belial or these other infernals. Like I got it. If anything, I need God and Saint Michael to be like, maybe it's time to play nice. Maybe it's time to and I'm just out here still swinging and they're like, no,
Like
no.
same, literally same.
So like I don't
No.
need that much infernal influence. I just want to see them and
Mm.
know like what they're about because a lot of people are like demons are bad, demons are this, and it's like have you ever talked to them though?
Yeah,
Have you ever
have you
had a
ever had a
conversation?
conversation? Like, I've gotten to the point in my practice where like the dark can exist without the light. And even though I don't work with Lilith necessarily in her demonic like form, I definitely see her as like the first
Mm.
wife of Adam and like overpowering like the more modern lore of her. Um, even though like that, I definitely see the more darker form of her. You know what I'm saying? And even though like I'm personally like a very confident person, there's like other things, like more personal things that I'm not super confident with that Lilith helps me work through. And that's definitely like part of it is like learning how to, she definitely teaches me how to keep balance and have like
Mm,
things that I don't have to share so publicly because there were like struggles that I've been experiencing and like things that I've been discovering in my own practice and my own personality that like I felt guilty for not sharing. And she'll kind of be like, listen, like at the end of the day, you don't need to share everything with everybody. You're allowed to keep things like personal and private to you, and you're
mm,
allowed to like only let a few people in. And that was a really good lesson from her. And I feel like they just teach you a lot more about boundaries and a lot more about being confident, and not in an egotistical way, but in a way that's really like self-protective. You know what I'm saying? But not in
mm.
like an unhealthy, constantly putting up walls, but in like, I'm holding these boundaries because that's what's good for me sort of
Right.
way.
And I think that's like the benefit. Like if you're always working with light, like that's cool. But if you're always working with dark, that's cool
Yeah.
too. But I think they work best together because like if we look at the seven deadly sins and the seven holy virtues, you can't be chaste all the time. You can't be patient all the time, and you can't be wrathful and lustful all the time either.
Yeah.
If you're one
No.
or the other all the time, it's gonna suck.
No, it's really hard to like find that balance and like making sure. I feel like that's part of like Christian witchery, honestly, or like Jesus witchery is like finding that kind of balance because I feel like a lot of us
Mm,
come to this place from trauma and from like a more oppressive religion. So learning how to have like the balance of like giving like so selflessly the way that Jesus did, but also having like those boundaries the way that like somebody like Lucifer or Lilith would encourage you to, I feel like is really important because at the end of the day, like it's so cheesy, I hate to say, but you
mm.
really can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not holding boundaries and you're letting people constantly take from you, how are you going to help and feed the light? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that's something I think about too.
No,
Um,
absolutely. And well, what was Mimi's question? We gotta go back to Mimi's
yeah,
question.
we gotta go back up to me. Mimi said, oh gosh, where did she go? It was like about
And Amanda,
oh
yes,
right
I
here,
did know
I
that. I
found it. What
the
are
Satan and Lucifer are so like
not
they always get
this?
convoluted, and it's like the word Hashatan doesn't like that's a
No, it's
title. Just
no.
it's
I
ah
personally like as an Italian, I see Lucifer as the Roman god of wisdom. And when I've worked with him like very loosely, like he's not one of my deities, but he's been in my space quite like, here and there, I see him as the Roman god of wisdom. And then like I had a conversation with my grandmother about it right here, her. I said to her, I'm like, why is he coming, to me like this? And she's like, well, like we're like native Italian, like some of your
mm,
ancestors would have worked with him in the like the wisdom form. He's not like, he's ultimately like his name means light. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah.
he's
For
just
me, for me,
misunderstood.
Lucifer. For me, Lucifer is a title too. So the one that I believe I'm speaking to when I'm speaking to Lucifer is actually Samael, who's a very interesting
Hmm.
angel, who has absolutely no fucks to give, but is surprisingly patient. But before I keep forgetting, we have to get back to
Mimi's
Mimi's
question.
question. I'm
Okay, Mimi's question says, what are the best, easiest habits you formed to continue integrating your practice into your daily life?
I'm absolute trash with habits. Like I have a tarot journal where I'm
Literally,
supposed to do a spread a day. I do not. I stack like eight spreads
no,
after a week, and I'm like, oh fuck.
that's too complicated. That's too complicated in my opinion. For me, my daily practice is one, I open the Bible app every single day and I read at least one verse. I have a streak of 212 days on the Bible app. If I can open TikTok every day, if I can open Instagram every day, I can open the Bible app every day for 5 minutes. Like that's that. So that's literally one, super easy, super simple. You're on your phone every day already. You could do it. Um, Two, I listen to music every day. So I listen to one of my spell songs every day. Even if it's just like I have ones that'll just like be there to give me confidence or be there to make me feel more connected to spirit. And so I'll listen to that to start my day, sort of thing. The other thing that I do like on a more daily basis to like an easy thing, um, showering. Like I mean, I don't shower every day.
Mm,
Like, let's be real, I'm a mom. But when I shower, I talk to the water and I tell like the water like all my manifestations that I'm working on, all the things I'm grateful for, all of the things like that I would like protection from. And I just have a conversation with the water and like envision it being Jesus's living water, you know?
mm.
So that's just three really simple, easy things that I do every day to,
See, I
having
wish
that
I hadn't heard
competitive.
any of this because now I'm working with Michael on discipline, and he's always like, "Why the fuck?" I'm like, "Oh no, all my time is gone." Then I can feel Michael standing on my head, like, "Well, imagine if you didn't spend 2 hours on TikTok, you shit." And I'm just like, shh, shh. But
I do
I
it
don't
too,
have like
though.
it's just hard. I mean, like, it's hard when it's like what you do. You know what I mean? Like, my job actually, in real life, is social media manager.
Yeah,
Everything I do here is social media. I can't get away from it, so I'm just like
yeah,
drowning in it, and I'm just like, well, I didn't. But that aside, I don't have like regular habits. But what I do like to do is things like I have this big, big pine tree right outside my window. And I never made a formal agreement with it, but I'm like, that's the house guardian, and I just throw all my
yeah.
dinner scraps at it, and I'm just like, eat something. So little things like that. Tarot, I try on Sundays to actually take time to relax and like read some Bible and like
Yeah.
not work and not drive myself nuts. Like I just a little bit, but
What
like
is
other than that,
that?
it's
I
very much
can't do
just
that. I can't. I'm a workaholic.
yeah.
I'm a Taurus. Excuse me. I can't do that.
Me too,
You got
Virgo.
to keep that grind.
So that's why I'm like, okay, good. I'm gonna take one day as like my Sabbath day, and then every time I'm like, shit, I didn't get this work done though, and I can feel God being like, hello.
Well, no, I'm horrible because I'll like prepare for a day off by like working so hard that by the time I have the day off, I'm like, I just don't even want to do anything now. I like get work
Me
prepared for
too.
3 weeks just for one day.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn the concept of you don't have to do every single thing on your list in one day. It's okay to like do one thing and then the rest of the day you have off. You don't have to do every single possible thing at once. And I'm just like, no. If I have daylight, I need to be working.
Even now it's like 4 p.m. and it's black outside. So even when it's not daylight, we gotta keep going. That's it.
Yeah, I literally, God knows, like later today, I'm gonna be doing one more thing, and tomorrow, I mean, I kind of like missed a writing day because I didn't realize Veterans Day was a day off at my office, so I had to like suddenly do more work than expected. So I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But like, I just have to cut my losses with the writing this week and lose that day because tomorrow I just need to like sleep, clean
Yeah.
my house, exist.
Sleeping and cleaning houses is important. I mean, I don't clean. My husband does that, but
Just same. I'm looking around my house like, but
yeah, I do the cooking. So, we split it that way. No, Charlie, the only reason you're not a
you know.
workaholic is because I have the workaholic brain cell. That's why. You don't have to do everything on your list at once. Yeah, you don't. You don't have to do everything. What else do we have? What questions do we have here? Do you do elemental practice? Do you work with the elements? Besides, like I light candles for fire. I mean, I don't know. I
hmm
don't intentionally call them in.
For me, I kind of go by my birth chart. I'm very like fire and earth heavy, so I end up having a lot of candles and like rocks and plants in my
Hmm.
rituals because that just makes sense. Also, like kitchen witchery is perfect because it literally combines fire and like food, so it makes sense. Um, sorry, any plans to try doing interviews with Greek deities yet? No. No, because actually it was my friend Meliagros who like while we were doing the whole Persephone thing, he asked Zeus like, "Can I keep doing it?" And Zeus was like, "No. Privately, sure, not for these interviews." So it was like, fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm not gonna fight you, Zeus. Wait, did you know
I'm not trying to fight Zeus.
apparently the etymology of the name Zeus actually means sky daddy? I don't know how true this is because I saw it on TikTok, but apparently it means sky daddy. And like, listen, if that is not the most Zeusiest thing you've ever heard,
I feel like we took some liberties with the translation on that one. but
but it's
but
great. It's great.
it's
I
oh geez.
I respect it.
This is fair. It's so fair. But
Do you use
once
the
one,
Christian God and Jesus as pagans would use the Norse or Greek gods and goddesses? Yeah, yeah, I
I
would say
I
so.
feel like weird about the word use, but otherwise, I mean, like,
Work with would be a better um
yeah. And
sentence
also, you know
structure.
what? worship. I feel like Witch Talk got a weird bug up their ass about the word worship, and it's like it's a god. It's okay to worship it. Like
Yeah, right.
they're not
But
just
like
like
then
gym trainers. Like
see, but my evangelical brain literally goes like, if you're worshiping Zeus, what music are you listening to? There's no like, our Zeus is an awesome Zeus. Like, is
oh
there?
geez. I mean, I maybe some lyre music. I don't listen to. I mean, I love
Somebody
Gregorian
needs
chants
to
if I'm gonna
do
get in the
that.
zone, but yeah. Oh, but also, actually, you can kind of catch them if you get to the Wiccan ones. You kind of get the little hodgepodge songs that like really talk about all that stuff. But hold on, what the frick? AJ says I see your veiling. Veiling is for protection. Yeah, so veiling is
Yeah.
for protection. Um, honestly, I do like to do this if I'm gonna like. I'm very bad with like social situations.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a place where it's not like I can't at work, I can't be throwing this on. No one's gonna take me seriously. But in general, like when I went to a church in Slovenia, I put this on mostly because you're supposed to do that in church, first of all, but second of all, it's a lot of people. There were so many people. I don't know who the hell told me that Europe is like dying out with religion. I'm sure it is for a lot of people, but also it's really not for a lot of people. There were
Mm-hmm.
so many people in that church on that just a random Sunday that like I was literally half like out the door. Everyone was packed in there. They had to take
Oh
the
my
Eucharist
gosh.
outside because there were all these people outside. Like it was a lot, and I was like, y'all are there's a lot of you right now.
No, that's crazy. So like here, so for me, I actually like physically cannot veil because like the pressure on my head gives me like really bad
Mm.
migraines because of the accident. So I use oils in my hair, and I use like, because at the end of the day, when you're veiling, you're trying to protect your hair from your hair being like an energetic antenna. Obviously, you're covering that like crown point as well, but a lot of it is to make sure that your hair is not absorbing the energies of other people.
Mm.
So I put my oils in my hair with like the intention of being like, okay, like I'm veiling myself for the day, so my hair is not picking up on anybody else's energy, sort of thing. And that's worked for me as
Mm.
just somebody who
That's
can't
interesting.
put a thing on their head. You could also use like a headband, a hat, literally like a hair tie, whatever, a scrunchie. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be like a little scarf or shawl to veil with. Um,
Mo asks, have you either of you thought about working with biblical spirits that aren't saints or angels? I only have Kresnik, which is like the old god of Slovenia, and that's mostly because I want that kind of ancestral connection. I've learned, and actually
mm-hmm.
Lucas was talking about Slavic deities too. Learning about Slavic deities it was this realization that God made my soul, but the Slavic deities rocked its cradle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, because it feels like home with them, but like the way your parents' house feels like home, and God is now your actual house. You
yeah.
know?
No, that
So
makes
it's
sense.
like it was like it's ancestral with me for them, where I'm just like, this is Krasnik, this is the old ways, the old land, the old people. And it really work with is really just I chat with him from time to time and like practice Slovenian, learn more about Slovenia, things like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if Raphael is a biblical angel. I've worked with him previously on like my healing journey. Personally, like this might be a spicy take. I did not find him super effective for that purpose. When I started to call in like Asherah more and Jesus himself, and even like Saint Paul, I started to feel a lot more effectiveness through like my healing thing. I just don't think he was like the right one for me, but I did try to work with him.
Hmm.
This wasn't the right
I just
match.
remember that. God, I got my ass eaten up. I don't know why or how, but that little silly video about Raphael ended up on atheist and Christian TikTok
Oh
at the same time.
God.
I don't think I've ever wanted to pitch myself out of windows so bad. I was like, I can't deal with I can't deal with one side accusing me of going to hell and the other side accusing me of having some kind of mental illness. It's like both of y'all.
Listen, we're just mentally ill people that are going to hell. That's it. Like, that's
Oops.
it. Just own it. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I'm too
Whoopsie
passive about
doopsie.
it. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like, you could say what you want. Like, okay, do you know me? Do you know me? At the end of the day, the Bible says that only God knows the characteristics of my heart. So, like, are you God? Are you God?
No,
Are
and
you
this whole
comparing yourself to him?
like
Like,
I always make the mistake too of thinking that I'm gonna change their mind, so I engage with them first when I really should just block them. But
No,
it's
you're
just
not going to
like,
change their minds.
it's.
Sarah,
I
you're
mean, I've
never
got
going
one
to change
person.
anybody's
Yeah, I
mind.
know it's so frustrating because I try to be like pose questions to them so they can see how they sound to themselves, and they're like a doll with a string in its back. They just say the same three sentences, and I'm like,
Mhm. Like,
are y'all okay? Like, hi.
do you realize what you're doing? My favorite is the you cannot serve two master comments. Like, have you read that part of the Bible? Have you read it? Because Jesus is literally talking about like you cannot serve God and money. Not another day. Money. He's talking about money being like the root, like the love of money being the root of all evil.
It's so embarrassing when they start throwing around verses and it's like you guys don't
Did
know
you
what
read it?
you don't
Like,
know what
did you read it or did you just hear a soundbite that your pastor said? Like, do you know what you're talking about? Like, I really like, okay.
MLM bots.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
No, I don't know. And like also they're like, but these verses say witchcraft bad, and I'm like, at this point I don't even explain it. I'm like, mistranslated out of context. Bye. That's all you need to know. I don't
That's
care to
just it.
explain it because I've already explained it 100 times.
Really it at this point. People are like, how do you know that it's mistranslated? I'm just like, read this book and leave me alone. Like,
One guy was like, "You should just learn Hebrew," and I'm like, "Dude, that's like telling like a modern Greek-speaking person that they should be able to perfectly understand the Iliad, the Odyssey, and ancient Greek. Like, that's not how it works.
that's not how it,
That's
okay,
not.
fine. No, that's people, I swear, people are sometimes really great. They
It's very silly."
first comment.
But hey Molly, yes, I like never go live. I should do this more regularly because it's nice to actually get to chat directly. Because I get all these comments on my videos, and I'm just like,
It's like, yeah, the
I don't have
comments.
time. But hold on.
What you call? What's your favorite broom closet undercover witchy life hack? Oh, I sound like a
You
broken
already know what
record,
I'm
but
gonna say.
some magic. What's yours?
Kitchen magic.
Yeah,
Just cook something.
just cook it.
Like it's could be fried eggs, put basil on it. Congrats, prosperity. Like and
Prosperity. Oh,
it
thank
tastes
you.
good.
Yeah, well, eggs don't taste good, so I mean, that's your opinion, but okay.
I just made shakshuka for dinner. Just like all just eggs.
I just burned my dinner to a crisp, like literally.
No.
Like my husband ate a piece of the bacon that I made. He's like, "This tastes like firewood." I'm like, "Okay." I'm the daughter of a chef, y'all, but I didn't get the same talent as him. This is why my daddy
I mean,
cooks for me. That's it. I don't
hey,
cook.
listen, at one point when I was 12, I thought I could defrost bread by running it under the faucet, so may that make you feel better. We've come a
But
long
no, but you
way.
were a kid. Like
I
I've
mean,
done okay, so my last oven, I broke it because I thought that I could like climb on it. It was a glass top. I like elbowed it into, yeah.
no.
hmm Glass top. Oh, and then but before that, I destroyed our rice cooker by burning it onto the stove top because I thought I could use it on there, and then I accidentally turned on the knob. Yeah. And these are things I've done as an adult with two kids in my own house. So
Oh
like,
no, listen, I had a glass lid on a pot. They're like, I didn't realize that when you have one hot pot touching the lid, the glass lid of another
no,
pot,
it's
that it unevenly heats. So all of a sudden, I hear this big pop and I go over and like the whole glass lid's just kind of messed up and I pull the lid and it all just crumbles into my food, all the glass and stuff. So I'm just like, nah.
yeah, that's happened to me too. I mean, not with a
It's
glass lid. It
terrible.
happened with like a spaghetti. I had like frozen spaghetti sauce in a glass jar because I'm not bright, and I'm trying to defrost it under hot water, and I hear this pop, and then I just pick it up and it's just like all over the place. I'm like, oh, okay.
It was so bad, dude. And I refused to waste the food, so my boyfriend and I actually picked out all the glass out of it and still ate it. I don't know how we didn't die, but we didn't die.
That's
But
like no,
I
that's
was like,
next
I'm not
level.
wasting all that. But hold on, Roxana's
You
like, do you
going
have
to
Slavic roots? I am.
McDonald's?
Nah, I was like, nah. But Roxana asked if I have Slavic roots. Yes, I am Slovenian. I'm half on my mom's side. My dad's an American, and I'm in the process of getting like my Slovenian citizenship. So, AO, then I'll be a dual citizen, which will be fun. Um,
Don't you gotta pay
But
extra
also,
taxes for that though?
that's actually only like 3 countries, and one of them's America. So me being Slovenian, I don't have to pay taxes to them unless I live there. But if I go live in Slovenia, I still have to pay
Yeah,
taxes
you
to
have to pay to
America, which is
America.
stupid.
Yeah, but
But
then if you want to relinquish your American citizenship, you got to give them like 5% of your entire net worth.
I know, which is like, girl, but at the same time,
America.
it's kind of baller because Slovenia's in the EU, so I could live anywhere in America and I could live in 28 different countries in Europe.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I mean, like, goddamn. But oh, someone else is. Oh, thank you, Libra. It's the first time you discovered me. Hi. Yeah, I just kind of I talk about writing, Slavic stuff, and Christian stuff all the time, and that's pretty much it. But but if you ask Michael for help, he'd have the energy to find time. See, I keep asking him, but at some point, even Michael can't really
No,
make a
you
gasless
gotta
lantern run.
you got sometimes at some point like you can ask spirit for all the help in the world, but at some point you got to take like initiative yourself and like move forward.
Yeah,
How did we
that's why it's
both
like
get into witchcraft? How did you get into witchcraft?
um this is kind of cringy, but it's because I was a kid and
It's
I
okay.
loved, I loved all the dragons and the magic and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. I was like 8 and I was watching Naruto and I was like, hell yeah, I can do the chakra thing, right? Like, because I was 8. But and
Yeah.
then eventually I found spellsofmagic.com and I was like, you fucking me. No way that you can actually do real magic. And I was writing down like how to change the weather and like make time go faster and all that crap. I was like 11. And then eventually I
Hmm.
figured out what magic like was more about, and I found Wicca and all this other stuff. And I was like, something about Wicca just doesn't feel right, which is hilarious given the discussion around Wicca today. But I was looking at Wicca at like 13 and I was like, I don't get how the god gives birth to, the goddess gives birth to the god and then like marries him and then he
Oh
dies
yeah.
and then she births him again. I don't get. So I was like, that's kind of weird. And I like then I started looking at God and I was like, what's your problem with like basil and rocks? And God was like, all right, you little shit. Actually, I don't have a problem. And
He's
showed
like,
me
I created
everything that
that
I now
stuff.
know. Yeah, so I was like, why is it bad to heal people with a rock? And God's like, great question. It's not. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the rest is history. The rest is just me trying to convince my parents I wasn't summoning demons with rosemary.
Yep. Yep. No, that's a yeah. That's you. That's about how it goes. I was definitely a lot older. I had my first baby at 18, and after I had Dexter, I started to get really into astrology. And I read tarot here and there at that point, but I had been raised Roman Catholic, and Catholicism just didn't fit for me. So I ended up going to an evangelical church in the process. And anyway, when I left the church, I found out I was pregnant with my second baby, Scott. And Scott is really my witchy awakening because when I was pregnant with him, my mother-in-law and I found like my father-in-law's tarot cards, and I started like Scott when I was pregnant with him never moved in my stomach to like the point where my midwife, bless her soul, she was sending me for like weekly ultrasounds because I'm like, Noonie, this baby's not moving. There's something wrong with him. She's like, Lina, he's fine, but you can go have another ultrasound. I'm like, yeah, I need to be proven. So anyway, he's like flipping around like crazy. And, I have these tarot cards and I shuffle them and the 10 of Pentacles falls out, which is like the big family card. So I
Mm-hmm.
started reading ever since then. And that kind of like led one thing to the other, and I started like looking up like spell work on the internet. But um I had just left my evangelical church, right? So I knew spell work was a sin, sort of thing. So I said to myself, well, if I involve Jesus into it, is it still a sin? So then
Which
I
is
started.
like kind of like God's in there like,
He's like, Lena, are you dumb? But anyway, it's like, why are you? What are you doing? So um
my phone alarm is going off and I don't know where my phone is.
but isn't your
Oh, there it is.
phone what
Okay.
you're doing TikTok off of?
I have
But yeah.
two.
Oh,
I
but yeah,
yeah, I'm a little bit extra.
I'm assuming you have like a work phone and like a fun phone.
I plead the
But
fifth. but
Yeah.
you know.
Or I
But yeah,
mean,
yeah. So
yeah.
this one's
Sure.
got the
So
better camera. No one can blame me. But
no, I'm gonna blame you.
also Mo asked if I'm doing NaNoWriMo. I was for 5 minutes, and then I actually managed to write less words a week trying to do NaNoWriMo than I normally do. So I was like, fuck that, and I just stopped. But but also, and then part Czechoslovakian. So there's not Czech Republic and Slovakia are two different countries. The reason they're called Czechoslovakia is because in World War II they banded together to try and hold off Germany. But I would kind of start looking into like Slovakian folk magic and like areas around it, like Austria, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That bitch empire had all of us at one point. It had Slovenia, Slovakia, Poland, it had everybody. So like you gotta go kind of looking into stuff like that, history, old folk medicine a lot. I know that my mom says that garlic will kill everything. It's true.
Heck yeah, garlic will kill everything. Oh my gosh. You could do some fun stuff with garlic.
I love garlic. My mom's
You
like,
could
"Oh,
do
if you
some
get
fun
worms,
stuff.
just eat like a whole fucking bulb of garlic." And I'm like, "Mom,
She's not wrong. She's not wrong at
she's
all.
not." But I'm also like,
You know, I mean, there's like
uh,
there's a lot of stuff you can do with garlic. It's a very great tool to have, and it's good for
mm,
protection and prosperity magic,
yes.
right?
No, I was literally just talking today like about how like again mundane and
Hi,
magical
what
go
are you
together
doing?
because it's
Go back. Come on, mommy's on live. You gotta go with daddy. Go to daddy.
but no, was I saying? Oh yeah, so like onions and garlic, right? Like their physical properties match their magical ones because
Mm-hmm.
physically they kill everything, and
Heck yeah.
magically they banish and exorcise the shit out of everything. So it
That's
works.
no, that makes sense.
Does
And
Michael love garlic?
I feel like a lot of herbs kind of do that. Like they'll have similar properties to like what they're for, just mundanely,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
Um, like I feel like and like cinnamon and ginger, I feel like are a good example of that because they're like really like I'm just thinking of like the essential oil version of them. They're really hot and they're good for like
Mm,
motivation and making like prosperity. And you know, if you're motivating
yeah, they're
yourself, you
also
want to have like
nice.
hot and a lot of energy, sort of thing.
Yeah, they keep you warm too. That's why they're always in those warm drinks. But
Heck yeah.
and then George said a great book is The Tales of Russian Village Women. That's a good one for Russians specifically. Um, I think that it's good to look into general Slavic, right? Because Slavic, everything has some similarities,
Hmm.
but every tribe also does have its very specific things too. Like Kresnik is actually more of a title for Svatojic, which some people venerate Pedin more, some people venerate Svatojic more, so it's like it's all very different. But
Could you do an altar tour? My altar is like so gross right now. I can't.
my
Um,
the only altar I got is my guest altar, which I guess if I can stop being a boomer and figure out how to turn this
I
around.
don't know how to turn it around on live. What are you talking about? That's not being a boomer. That's just being an elder Gen Z person.
Oh, okay, I found it. Okay, so here's like my guest altar, I guess, at the moment, which is I've got like a statue of Mary I picked up from that church in Slovenia, picture of Jesus that Svega sent me. I've got like this knife is actually from one of my friends from Emerson from my writing program. He made it out of like deer antler and stuff. There is a bloodstone angel right there, which I found also, and like
Sick.
mushrooms and hay bales, grapes, autumn things. I love this.
Autumn things. So, do you like, are you one of those people like me where it's fall until the last day of Sagittarius season? It is fall. And then once the winter solstice happens, then it's winter. But not until December 21st is it winter. It is fall.
Uh, for me, it's like I love the Christmas season, but I
Yeah.
restrain myself, and like I have to let Thanksgiving happen first before I start pulling
No.
out all of the
No,
stuff.
no, no, no,
If
no.
it's like I
No.
can't, I'm
You do
like
the
we gotta
decorations. You
My
Christmas
best
decorations can happen in the fall, but I'm saying that I will not say it's winter outside. Like I will not say it's cold like winter
oh
outside. I'm not gonna be like it's a bitter fall day. But until it's
yeah,
Capricorn
no,
season,
I'm very much well, I consider like December like general winter, but if someone starts telling me about winter time in November, like they're getting
no,
slapped. I'm be like, shut up.
no.
Let me have my autumn.
No, I guess part of it for me is my like eldest is born December 20th, and I'm like, he's a fall baby. Don't
By
take that
me.
from me. He's not. Okay, Mallory asked us if you had to only choose one, what's your favorite tarot deck?
Oh shit, don't um I think the Marigold Tarot, to be
Hmm.
honest. I think Marigold. You'll get
It's a
it.
pretty. I think mine is I'm not gonna go get it because it's too far away. It's the Wandering Star Tarot. I have really fallen in love with that one. Before the Wandering Star took my heart, this was my favorite deck, the Light Seers deck. This one's so good, so pretty. I feel like it's really great for like beginner witches and beginner like tarot people because it represents so many different people within it and so many different lifestyles. Um, so this is what I recommend for beginner witches. But my favorite deck right now is the Wandering Star. That one's also good for beginners, but I just think there's something special about having this be your first tarot deck.
Honestly, for me, it's Marigold. Also, mostly because like my boyfriend is he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any of this stuff, but he knew that I was gonna like this kind of art style and this kind of like
Oh,
whole thing. And so he actually followed it on Kickstarter and got it. He like funded it and sent it to me, which was very cute. And
that's
so it's
cute.
my favorite deck for that reason, but also just because the art is so good and also like the vibes this thing gives are like stern grandma. Like this thing is very much like you fucked up, but that's okay. Like
That's so funny. Having trouble with Oracle decks. So many have the Star Seed stuff that I don't like deck. Oracle decks. I swiped up on my phone by accident, like a boomer. You
I
calling
was
yourself a
like
boomer?
so
Where
sick
did
with
she
you go.
go? No, I'm just like
But
57. I don't know what I'm doing. Um, yeah, Oracle is weird. I love Oracle, but it's like I like the Moon Oracle the best, the Moonology Oracle decks. Those are really like the only ones I tend to use are the Moonologies.
oh my
Um,
God, Lucas has a loader themed deck. I love that. But yeah, no, I don't understand Oracle decks. The only one I have is the Archangel Oracle deck, which I used to be like, God, which angel right now? And like I pulled three and it was like Michael Gabriel Zadkiel, which makes a lot of sense because I need discipline, I need creative help, and I need to stop beating myself up literally all the time. So I'm just like, how do you just know? How do you just
mhm.
know?
It's like crazy. Do you work with the moon phases? I work with the full and new moon phases. I
Yeah.
listen, I'm a mom. I can't like do a ritual every 4 days. It's just not like something that's practical for me. One thing that I really love to do with the moon is test my astrology math. So I will go outside, I'll look at the moon phase, I'll think about the astrological season that we're in, and I will try to determine just by the moon phase what sign the moon is in. Um, and I'm actually getting pretty good at that. So that's my moon magic right there is guessing
That's
what
pretty
sign the
cool,
moon is
actually.
in and being pretty accurate with it.
Dang, shit. Nah, for me, it's like I have my tarot journal, which I love to pieces. I don't know. Oh, there it is. I have so many items just like around right now. But like this one, right? I got a different one this year. I got one that has just one card, so I could do like a daily one card pull and then
Hmm.
like use it like a regular planner. Maybe that'll make it better because like the three card thing is cool, but like too much. And also I never
It's a
get to use
lot.
any other spread. Yeah. And but they have like the new moon, full moon spreads, which are really cool. And so I'll do like a ritual and
That's
then
cool.
like talk to God about it, and that's a lot of fun. But like I get overwhelmed with the whole like you have to do a luck spell when the moon is waxing on a Sunday, and I'm
Yep.
just like
It's just
I
too
will do the spell
complicated.
at some point. Yeah,
Or like
like
the
I'm just like ugh.
planetary, it even gets more complicated if you do like planetary like hour magic, like you do like a specific spell in Jupiter's hour or Mercury's hour or Venus's hour, and I'm like, oh my god, That is so like that is so complicated. Like if you have the time and the energy to do that, awesome. I wish I was you. I don't. Like I'm sorry, I don't. That's it.
No, this and like to me this is like if you read fantasy books, it's the difference between like the really educated ceremonial magician in his high tower that like does everything perfectly to the letter and like the witch character who's like this mushroom must do something. I'm sure it'll work. Like I'm
Hmm.
the mushroom lady.
It'll all fall into place eventually. Whatchamacallit? This question here, this is a good one. How how do you know the angels and higher spirits you believe in and interacted with are happy or angry? I really just think it's the vibe. Like I know that sounds such a like a like a cop out answer, but it's really the vibe.
It's like I don't know. I think every player's skill is a little different. So like sometimes people are like, "Oh, they I feel such heaviness." I don't really feel that much, but I do see. And I see things
Hmm.
that like when
No, I
I for
feel.
example, when I was asking Saint Dismas, I was like, "What do you think about people's like obsession with salvation?" They're like, "Oh, I'm saved and we have to save you." And Saint Dismas, he started showing me images of like shadowed cities, people with like eyes sunken in, skulls, like a woman in red walking down a fucking city full of disease and pestilence. And I was like, oh, and then he was very in my face, like, it's bullshit. Like, people are treating salvation like gold that you could steal for nothing. And I
Yeah.
was like, ooh,
I
ooh. So it
mean,
was
I
like,
think that this whole idea of being saved is like really starting to like transcend like other places, and people are like constantly like, I mean, like not for nothing, like all the political signs here in New York are save our state. And it's like, no,
yeah,
nobody's going to come in and swoop in and save us. We have to save us. You have to save yourself, kind of
right,
thing. And people need to like learn how to do that. And I think like that's kind of like what St. Desmond was showing you is all this like, distraughtness that people like will see around them, right? Instead of seeing their own strengths, they'll just see like weaknesses that are around them and not be able to like work together as a community and like save each
right.
other.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like,
it's just like, there's very much, I think when people start harping about salvation and oh I'm saved and like there's a good question. This is the question that Anne Hutchinson with the Puritans grappled with. If I'm saved, why the fuck do I have to follow any of these rules?
yeah,
And like
no,
they're like, well, because and it's like no, like being saved is like our consolation prize kind of for a very shitty world we have to live in. We have
mm-hmm.
to make the world less shitty. Like we have to
Yeah,
do things about it.
yeah. Whatchamacallit, you know who talks about that a lot in her work? Doreen Virtue. And she's like
Mm.
a past life regressionist, or she was a past life regressionist before she passed
Yeah,
away.
she like jumped
And
off the deep end, and I was like, "Girl, god damn it!" Like,
no, wait, was that Doreen Virtue? Or was that, no, wait, am I right? Who, am I talking about the right person? There's the Christian one, and oh, Dolores Cannon. I'm talking about the wrong person.
I was about to say, I was like, Doreen Virtue's a nut, but also,
Nope, nope, no,
hello,
no, no, no,
hello,
no.
friend
I'm
from
talking about
Uruguay.
the wrong person. Doreen Virtue and Dolores Cannon have two similar of names that my brain goes like whoop, to the two of them all the time. No, I'm talking about Dolores Cannon. She was a past life regressionist before she passed away, and she did all of these like hypno. Like she wrote the book about a conversation with what's his name, Nostradamus, and she would like regress people back to like being able to talk to him and whatnot. And her a lot of her work centers around like what we need to do for like the earth is send like this vibration of love, send this vibration of like positivity, and like do good things and like basically save ourselves, sort of thing. And that's what's going to last at the end of the day is like these like emotions and these feelings that we leave here. That's really what's going to help save the earth or like
Yeah,
whatever, you know
yeah, and I guess
not
I shouldn't say
salvation.
salvation. I shouldn't say salvation's a consolation prize because Jesus didn't die for a consolation prize, but at the same time, it's like I really am starting to think that like the whole us being saved is just God being like, hey, you don't got to worry about that later. Focus on this right now because like this whole idea like the world belongs to Satan. It's like, well, Satan is just an adversary trying to test you. Are you
Yeah.
just gonna you're just gonna fail every test?
So like
You're
that's
just gonna walk away from it? Like
it's like automatically giving up. And I really don't like that whole like be in the world but not of it. Like I'm sorry, humans are worldly creatures. There's not a single human in heaven. There might be human souls in heaven, but your body and my body is not going up to heaven. So
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
sorry, but we are of the world technically. Like,
what and like actually there's someone on TikTok, Miriam, who's like an Orthodox Jewish woman, and like she talks about she's like, I live for this life. I don't worry about what happens there. And it's like, yeah, because why bother
yeah,
worrying about it? Like we have all this greatness to experience here. It's like being on a vacation. Do you be like, I'm not of this other country, I'm of my house and wherever the fuck no. You enjoy
mm,
your vacation. Come on.
yeah. No, that's I mean, like, obviously, like, I mean, I am one of those people that does have like death anxiety, and I will, like, even though I'm like a super like spiritually person, sometimes I'll be like, are we right though? Like, is there really something after this? Like, are we right? So like I'll get caught up in that, but it's never like a, matter of like, am I good enough to make it to the next step, like, sort of thing. It's not that. It's really like Miriam says, you have to live in the life, and not for nothing. Like, Orthodox Judaism, the one like thing I've really taken from it. And growing up in New York, I grew up around a lot of Orthodox Jews, and then obviously with TikTok, it has really like spurred a lot of the memories that I've had growing up back on. And the one thing that I really loved that my Orthodox Jewish friends and her family um, did growing up is live by the laws, not die by them. They really didn't
Mm.
let these things be chains for them. They embraced them in like happy and fun and beneficial ways. And when something was not beneficial to like their health or their community, they modified it or adapted it to make it beneficial for that community member. So it seems like these like laws, these quote unquote strict laws that Orthodox Jews follow are not as strict as Christianity, because they're literally like saying like, hey, if on Shabbos you need to use your diabetes pump, even though it's a sin to use it, because God would rather
Yeah,
you
because
use
it's
it than die.
and that's
Like,
that's the thing I love about it. It's like this they acknowledge that God is a God of the living, not the dead. Like
yeah,
he cares about your well-being first. Like
exactly.
but and someone Jacqueline, I don't think I'm good enough to make it to the next step. There's no such thing as good enough or not good
No
enough
such thing as
to
good
the
enough.
next step. I think if anything defines it, it's more of how much you want something at the end of your life. Like, if you kind of just go and you have like nothing else you want to do, maybe you'll get reassigned to something that's random. Maybe you'll just kind of chill and rest. I don't know. If you want to do something, if you die still having all these things like all this fire in you, you might get put in a very interesting situation. I don't know. I think reincarnation and like sainthood makes the most sense out of anything I've read about the next life.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in reincarnation. I think we do have a spiritual home that we'll ultimately end up in, but I really am like a
Mm.
firm believer in reincarnation. And we talk about it is talked about in the Bible, and alluded to Elijah, who in the book of Kings, he was in a chariot with his son Elisha, and then all of a sudden these like angels came, swooped in, grabbed Elijah, and took him up to heaven. And Elijah was sitting there like, "What the fuck happened to my dad? Where'd he just go?" Like, sort of thing. And then you fast forward into the book of Matthew, I believe. Jesus is saying, or it might be Luke. Jesus is saying like, "You don't see it. Elijah is here. He's here in the spirit. John the Baptist is Elijah." But they're like, "What do you mean?" And I feel like it's really clear, like, Jesus is alluding to reincarnation. I have a whole episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. If you didn't know, I have a podcast. It's called the Jesus Witch podcast.
Yeah, I
Sarah
got a
was a
podcast.
guest
This is
on an
cool.
episode. It's a fun podcast, if I do say so myself. But we do have a whole episode on reincarnation and talking about not only the scientific aspects of it, but the biblical. And that episode's like, I'll listen to it every once in a while because I just like to
I'm
hear it.
still I'm still just laughing at the idea that the angels gave that poor kid like a dad went to get the milk moment, but like
Yeah,
heavenly. Like
but like,
whoops.
it's like, where
Oopsie.
did
God's like,
my
hold on,
dad
wait a minute. But oh
go?
God.
Oh,
And
that
then
was
wait, hold
just
on.
so funny.
Greg was saying, aside from Lucifer, how the interviews changed your practice.
Yo, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quick. You answer this question. I'm
Okay.
gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay. So, I don't know if anyone's like new here. I do actually I'll get back to reincarnation. We are in a different world now. But I do try to talk to pagan deities, angels, saints, demons, anyone really, because I feel like it is really stupid for Christians to say that our God exists and no others exist. I feel like that's hypocritical. and ridiculous because how can you say any of them exist if some of them, like, it just doesn't, if one exists, they all exist. That's my opinion. And I wanted to know more about what these beings were and what they were about and what they did, what they looked like, how they acted, what they wanted to say to people. And I asked them specific questions based on things that they rule over. So if Anubis and Azrael are all about death, I'm asking them things about death. If Thor is all about the common man and like daily life, if the Morrigan's all about death in the battlefield and war, I get all of these different perspectives that haven't changed my practice so much as they've changed my mindset. And so I get very frustrated now, I guess, looking at people who just like miss the plot so bad. Like I see all these people who just like I don't know, they almost get like tunnel vision on certain aspects of life, and it's like you guys aren't seeing the bigger picture. So like people are like, "Oh no, hellfire and this and that." And I'm like, "I literally don't give a shit because that's not how it works." And I've
Yeah.
been told so by multiple different sources. Like,
No, that makes sense. There's also like a lot of not to drag the Catholic Church because like I know you and I both came from the Catholic Church, so like mad respect to that for showing us the faith. But there's quite a lot of evidence on Catholicism like pretty much making up the concept of hell. So I don't know. That's something to further research, but like that's
see,
definitely a thing.
this is when I wish past life regression was something I could easily do because I want to go jump Dante for writing Dante's Inferno because like what kind of freaking ho dump I mean, God bless that LSD he was on that he thought of all that he wrote, but like,
Right? But then why
dude,
are we using like books by people like on LSD as like literal like doctrine? Like that's like the thing I have the question
yeah,
of.
people who literally just wanted to write a book about how great they are and how much like their political enemies suck, and we're like, that's sound doctrine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
No. I
okay,
mean, like not for nothing, there is evidence that parts of the Bible, when they
of
went
course.
into like different temples in like ancient Semitic areas, they found evidence of like ritual herbal use in a more fun manner, you know what I'm saying? So there were definitely some highly inspired quotes in the Bible. So
I live for it. I love it. But like, oh God, I saw Chosen in here. Hi, Chosen. And then also, what else? Someone else was asking something, and I forgot. Oh, Sainthood. Yeah, Jacqueline, Sainthood. So there was like, and this is something that I talked to with Strega at one point. It's called, according to Father Kyle, Christus Victor, the idea that when Jesus went down to purgatory or hell for those 3 days that he was dead, he kind of woke everyone up, freed everyone, he moved on to the next thing, and there was no more hell. Hell was just gone. And so
mm-hmm.
that's where the idea of All Saints Day and All Souls Day comes from. If you're a
Yeah.
bad person, you spend like max a year in purgatory, and then you become a saint. Like everyone who dies is a saint. So you don't talk to them for a year so they can focus on what they got to do. After that, they're like any other saint, like Saint Nicholas or whoever. You can send
Yeah.
a prayer and say, "Hey, hey, help me," and they'll put in a word for you.
Yeah, and it's not like purgatory is like, at least my understanding, purgatory is not like hellfire and brimstone. It's literally like soul
Yeah,
school. It's like sitting at like a little
yeah,
desk and being like, this is what I did wrong in my life, and this is what I could have done better, like sort of thing. It's
yeah. It's not
not
like
like this intense. And I mean, like when you so I really like the book Journey of Souls. Excuse me, I'm choking on an almond. But I really like the book Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. Um, in his book, he describes like people regressing into literally like classroom type areas and like, in spirit. And I feel like that makes I felt like when I read Journey of Souls, the Bible made so much more sense because I feel like it just like
mm,
answered the missing questions that I had kind of thing. Um,
yeah,
so that's like, and yeah, you're right. In Italian traditions and a lot of like, more Catholic traditions, you do not call upon, a family member for a year after they die. I think it's okay to like light a candle. So like my uncle Tony passed away in April, and my mom and I went out and she bought a saint Anthony candle, and she lights it periodically for him and for his like soul's like movement, but it's not like we're like requesting anything of him. So I feel like that's okay, but
Yeah.
obviously not petitioning.
Yeah, you
I
can
felt
like
like that
pray
would be
for
weird.
them and stuff. But also, and then on top of that, I mean, like, I still gotta go to school. Yes, absolutely. But also, here's another
Heck
thing that people
yeah.
don't really understand. Hell isn't really a Jewish concept either.
No, it's
Like,
not.
so everyone's like, oh, hell and fire, all this. Why will God punish us? Well, no. Like, if anything, Sheol was a little bit more like purgatory in a way, but like nothing happens. Like, you're literally sleeping. You are
It's sleep,
literally
it's
just
rest.
resting.
Yeah, it's just soul rest.
Like,
It's soul recuperation.
you're,
I don't think in Sheol you're not conscious because like in Psalm 23 it says like even in the pits of Sheol you're there with me. So I feel like you'd be conscious that you're in the pits of Sheol kind of thing. But I
yeah,
very much
but it's
think
more
it's
like
like a
you're
soul
chilling.
rest, like more than
Yeah.
anything. How much of the Bible do I believe? Maybe a solid 40% of it, if we're giving like a percentage wise.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta treat it like the Iliad, right? Like for a long time, people didn't believe the Trojan War actually happened because Homer wrote so much fluff around the actual event, with all
Yeah.
these gods and all this other stuff. But like just like that, like the Bible is, I see the Bible as like history being explained through the lens of mythology. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's all these things that happen, and they're saying God did this and God did that, and it's like, yeah, sure, maybe he did, or maybe it was just a flood.
Who knows? Who
Like,
knows? Like who knows? Here's a fun question. Do you think science will ever find existence of an afterlife or evidence of an afterlife?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think they already have. There's many different studies and things that do allude to. Firstly, okay, think about people in hospice care. When you bring a family member to hospice care, they tell you that one of the closest like signs to them passing away is them talking about like seeing people that have passed. That's like literally in medical textbooks. Why? Like there's also they did oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher the numbers, but they did a study on like let's say it was like 800 people who had a cardiac arrest and they like talked to them about that moment and they said that they could like about 50% of them said they could like see the people outside of them like working on their body like it was a real out of body
Oh my God.
experience. Other people said that they like would sit there and like review their life, like they had like a very moral feeling about like what the actions that they've taken in their life. But all of the people that they were talking to have reported this sense of being pulled home. So I really do think that science knows. I mean, like, look at quantum physics, look at string theory, right? They know that
Mm.
there's more than just this universe here. So, like, are we going to know the exact specifics? I don't know. I think when Pluto moves into the sign of Pisces, we might see a little bit more concrete evidence because Pisces rules over, death, endings, things like that, spirituality in that sense.
Mm.
But I think we already do have, so I mean, reincarnation too. A lot of the people who have been studying it, Dr. Michael Newton, Dr. Ian Stevenson, these are actually like trained doctors who were studying these things and doing actual studies on them. So I really do think science has the evidence for it. Is it concrete enough that we could say, like, this happens exactly? No, but I think
Mm.
science pretty much accepts that there is something greater than just Earth.
I see, but like knowing that just is like frustrating because it's like now I want like how do we kill people ethically for science?
That's
Like,
literally Shea Grillo, who's a past life reader. Her and I on here, her and I have like sat here being like, you can't like kill somebody and like make them come back. And she's like, but that's like only one person. And I'm like, you can't do a case study with one person. I'm like,
I need, oh boy,
you're
I
right.
need a lot of people to be very
Yeah, to just
willing to whoops. um, but we're just talking about casual.
Jesus
Yeah,
was a
we're fine.
Pisces. No, I mean, there's actually evidence that Jesus might have been a Virgo. He was either a Virgo or a Pisces. It's one of the two. So,
Bro, if Jesus was born in September, no one can tell me shit anymore. No one can tell me anything.
for
Like
Sarah's
that,
ego's
no.
sake, for Sarah's ego's sake, Jesus was a
He's
Pisces.
why this. Oh my god.
Die and
But
come back CPR.
we frick. But also, hold on, what else was? Oh, what's the
What's
worst
the worst
TikTok?
TikTok witch talk trend? The trend where you're an evangelical and you go to like witchy people's comments and tell them they're going to hell. That's the worst witch talk trend.
Yeah, that one is pretty prime. That one is pretty like, oh my god, my as a Christian, which I love it when they're like, you need to turn to Jesus, and I've got a picture of him on my altar, and I'm like, all right, I've turned
Been
towards my
turned,
dresser. Now what?
been turned.
But
What else?
also
What do I
like,
do?
but like in my opinion, witch talk specifically. Oh God, I feel like there's like a lot of answers to this. And I feel one of them is like, I think when all that Zenithra stuff was happening,
Oh my God,
it's,
that was so funny.
I loved that, and it showed exactly how many people take themselves way too fucking seriously.
Yeah. The
Whereas
amount of
Witch Talk
DMs I
10 is
got.
acting like this is so serious, it's really not.
Yeah, that's definitely the word. I that one. The worst TikTok, the witch talk trend is us taking it too seriously because it's like not. I've gotten to the point where genuinely, Sarah, I have pushed myself as far as I possibly can off of witch talk. I only see witchy content when I go to my following, like who I'm following. At this point, like all
Mm.
my whole entire For You page is like Swift talk and ridiculous dads. Like that's it. Because I'm just
No,
like
for
I can't deal with it. It's just the drama that some people like. They just mm, mm-mm. I only follow like 170 people for a reason.
I feel it too. Wait, hold on. Wait, Greg Locke on Halloween Samhain. I did not see that, but I know he, for some reason, went after yoga mats, and I was like,
Did he?
dude, yeah, he was
He
like,
better
they
not
got
go to.
yoga mats, and I'm like, dude, there's nothing wrong with wanting a little cushion, like, under your ass bone when you do, like,
Correct.
some ab workouts.
Like, yeah, I don't think about. I personally don't think about people like Greg Locke. I thought when everybody on Witch Talk and everybody like on Progressive Christian Talk was making so many videos about him, I'm like, you guys are just giving this dude what he wants. I don't know. I don't feel like people like that are worth my energy, so I don't think about it.
I
He
just
had a
remember seeing it
witch
and being,
burning. I don't think he actually had like a real life person burning. Because if that were the case, that would be a
I feel like
real
he'd be arrested,
problem.
like, slightly, a
Yeah, like
little.
I mean, I know that he's like in a southern state, but I think that if he did that publicly, that would be a little. Is
I
Gref's
guess, I
right
don't know.
friend you? Is that why he's doing this? Maybe. I mean, like, don't they know that you could like burn witch stuff? All right. I mean, I listen. When I was an
Sure, but,
evangelical, I burnt my tarot cards. Ooh, like,
which is
you
like,
know,
what a waste of 70 tarot cards. But for me, I think the scariest thing about Greg Locke isn't Greg Locke himself. It's how many people in his congregation are like foaming at the mouth, like ready for it. That's what freaks me out because I'm just like, y'all are
I
about
think
to
it's
like,
even worse the not just the people in his congregation, but like the people on like, like conservative like Facebook who are like, this is great. I'm like, guys, take a chill pill.
it's
That's
like, and like also again, like when he's dropping names of people, I'm like, you're gonna get someone seriously injured. Like, let's not do that. Like, don't dox your own
he doesn't. He
congregation.
genuinely doesn't care. Like he genuinely doesn't. He genuinely doesn't care. I don't know. At this point, like people who are witchy that go to his congregation probably just shouldn't be going there.
They probably shouldn't be like walking the streets as free people, in my opinion. They should people who agree with Greg Locke's like insanely dangerous rhetoric need to be put into like, I don't know, prison.
I
Put
don't
away
know.
from
That's like
people.
it's just crazy. It just that's why I genuinely like I just don't think about it because like it's not worth my time or my energy. And at the end of the day, like it's we can all say what we want to say about the United States. It's not going to get that bad where like witches are being burned again. It's just not like let's be realistic.
Yeah,
That's not going to
it's
happen.
not
We're not going to go that
there's
far
never
down.
going to be a time where that is going to get like that. But there are some people who certainly might want to be like some freaking Christ warrior or
Heck
something and do
yeah.
something stupid, in which case I've been telling I go hang out with my mom for laundry every couple weeks. I'm just like, "Mom, I've been seriously desensitizing myself to the idea of causing real harm to people because I'm not going to hesitate if someone tries to bullshit on me. I will
Oh
either
no.
go for their eyes or like
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, like at all with self-defense. I like literally, Sarah, I carry around fucking pepper spray. Like, come up at me. Come up at me and give me a reason.
me
Like,
too.
so
I'm just
real.
like, don't. But the Exodus starts to people being like, "Oh, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." It's embarrassing because that's not what the verse really has to say. Second of all, it's like, what are you trying to say throwing that at me? Do you want to kill random people for playing with basil?
Yeah, right? Like, do you
That's
are you
okay.
really that insane? Like, do we need to, call somebody for you? Do you need to touch some grass? Like, I don't
this is why I said like I'm totally fine with causing serious bodily harm to people because if they're going to start like trying to do that kind of stuff, I will so gladly like
Listen,
remove their hands. Oh,
witchcraft
we
is a
got
sin. You
one. We
want to
got
know
a
what
live one.
else is
We
a
got a
sin?
live one.
You know what else is a sin? Being judgmental. That's a sin. And you being judgmental, fam. Have you
Also,
read?
I mean
Have you
like
read Matthew 4? Have you read Matthew 4?
my
Have
favorite
you read Matthew
my
7?
favorite thing, witchcraft is a sin and it's like first of all,
Hey, like,
complain to
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Complain to
Complain.
God
Oh
because he's
God.
the one who told me to do it. But second of
Uh,
all,
how
that
about
sucks. Like
complain to Jesus? He was like he turned water into wine. He raised somebody from the dead. His disciples were
yo,
casting lots in Acts. They were giving people garments to heal themselves with. Oh my gosh, that sounds a lot like witchcraft and energy work.
Lockburner
We really like
Can we?
burner account.
I just I love it that like I always have such fun with them because I'm like okay, what do you think it is? And then they're like it's Satan. I'm like who's Satan? And then they give me some non-answer and we're back at square one. And I'm like okay, you guys don't know your own religion. I'm
They
sorry to be
don't.
the one to tell you this.
They
But
don't.
what else
They
was
don't.
I was thinking about something and now I forgot it.
We got distracted by the troll.
Oops.
Calling something a sin by itself isn't judgmental, LOL, especially witchcraft. Hey, but I have a question for you. Have you read Matthew 7 where Jesus says, in regards to like judging other people's relationship with spirit, he says, look at the plank in your own eye before you address the speck of your neighbor's? Because he's saying to like people like you, hey, like look at your relationship with God and evaluate all the ways that you're sinning because you're a sinner before pointing it out to somebody else. So with this
For me, it's
energy and
more
with this
like
time, go ahead.
uh, no, I'm just saying more for like again as being too invest. It's like define witchcraft. What do you think it is?
What do you
I
think it
can't wait
is?
to hear you say something straight out of Malefice Maleficarum, but like, especially witchcraft. It's like, you guys think we're like, I don't know, poisoning children and like sending toads out to steal souls? And there we go.
Oh,
It's a
look, another
sin.
one. Lamo. You communicate
Do
with
you
BL.
communicate with Belial?
I don't
Why?
communicate with BL.
I mean,
So,
I've like talked to him once.
hey, but you wait. In the book of Job, you want to know who else talked to a demon? God. He talked to the Satan, which is the adversary in the book of Job when the adversary was asking to, test Job. Wow.
So for me, it's like I don't really like. I always ask, and this is actually a great thank you for this conversation point. So when it comes to my interviews, I always do, ask God like what He thinks about something before I get into it, and how I
Mm-hmm.
should approach it, and what I should do. And when it comes to any of the infernals, He's just like, well, keep in mind that they're this kind of person. Keep in mind that like they might challenge you this way. Like I remember with King Paimon specifically, I was scared because I had seen Hereditary, and he's like the big bad in Hereditary, and I was like, I know this movie's Hollywood bullshit, but I'm still kind of freaked out. And God literally asked, he was like, "Are you sure you're ready?" And I said, "Well, it was voted on in Patreon, so I have to be ready." Biggest mistake of my life.
No.
Biggest mistake of my life. Because then that night I had one of the worst sleep paralysis things I've ever had in like years and like it was knocking it like not really but in this half dream it was like knocking things off my altar. It was trying to push Jesus off my altar and I was like what the fuck, and I was like oh no, did King Paimon notice me, is he coming after me? And then I woke up and I was like King Paimon has no reason to do, like it was so clear immediately. I was like he has no reason to do that. That was God's own angels fucking with me to be like, can you tell the difference? Are you ready? Are you mature enough to handle that? And I was like
Yeah.
humbled, but
You're gonna put a spell in me.
all
You're
right.
not worth me. You're not worth my energy or me putting a spell into you. I don't like
The Witch of
care
Endor
about
is
you
so
enough.
cool. Oh, I love the Witch of Endor.
Advice for
But
deconstructing. I actually have a podcast episode about that called Faith Without Fear. Or like I think that's what it's called. Faith Without Fear. It's something
working with
similar to that.
spirits is witchcraft. Oh my god, this is why everyone thinks Catholics are witches. Fuck.
Working with spirits is witchcraft. Okay, but like if you're a Christian who gets taken over by the Holy Spirit, aren't you working with spirits?
That's
If
different.
you're
That's God.
if you're praying to the spirit of dead Jesus, aren't you working with spirits?
My thing, I don't know. But then people are like, "Why are you like being mean to them?" Because I'm sorry, y'all deserve someone to patronize you a little bit when you come in here being so blatantly wrong and aggressive and confrontational for no goddamn reason. Blatantly,
Listen,
like
I never get spicy, but because I'm here with Sarah, I. I
I am
guess.
very spicy. This is why I don't need to work with Infernals because I'm already very spicy. For me, it's just like if you come in here with bad faith, with an aggressive attitude, and
Heck
you don't want to
yeah.
listen, you just want to be righteous or self-righteous, falsely righteous. I don't feel the need to play nice with you. I don't feel the
No.
need to entertain like I don't mean to be like, well, baby, here's what really happened. No, I'm gonna be like, cool, complain to God.
Sometimes the high roads get backed up.
Yeah, my high road has been like in under
No.
construction since my birth. Like
No.
there's no traffic on that bad boy.
No. I
But
listen. I gotta make sure you text so I got Lina. Thank you guys. You guys are nice. I listen. I'm and Sarah can relate because she's also from like the Northeast, but I'm from New York. Okay.
I
I
mean,
don't.
because I grew up in New England.
I don't mess with things like that. Like, no, it's not worth my energy.
But also it's like
So
it's really funny because like especially it's the funniest when like hardcore Catholics talk to me about this stuff because they're like witchcraft is spirits and then meanwhile they've got like their own Saint Anthony candle and I'm like talk to me
yeah,
about that. What's that?
like literally, like that's like so. My family's really hardcore Catholic, and I did not. I mean, aside from my parents are not hardcore Catholic, and like my like like more immediate, but like my outer family, they're very Catholic, and I thought all of them were going to be super against what I do. But at my uncle Tony's funeral, I sat and I had a conversation with like the elder cousins, and I like explained to them what I'm doing, and like showed like kind of like showed them a little bit more about my practice, and they're like, that's not different from what we're doing at all. I'm like, no, it's not. It's literally the same exact thing.
Yeah, and that's why
So
I'm just like I you but no, they're like no, but like this is all God. This is all like it comes from God and I'm just like yeah. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
You
You reject the
just
Bible's
reject.
condemnation of. Okay, so if you want to have a real discussion, yes, the Bible's condemnation of witchcraft has been a political tool. Like people like King James, who purposely translated all of these very different words with very different cultural, historical, and political contexts into the same word, is a clear sign that he had an agenda. Which, shocker,
Mm-hmm.
the witch hunting king has a witch hunting agenda. The original words were talking about specifically pagan practices, people who, like they were Sumerian, Babylonian magic that was not allowed, which is what the Witch of Endor was doing. There is the poisoning, right? The cursing and the hexing. There's pharmakeia, which is either drug abuse or pagan, like ritual involving drug abuse.
Or
All of that
poisoning
stuff,
somebody else.
yeah,
Like,
like I guarantee you I'm not putting animal bones in my mouth, getting high, and trying to make the spirit speak through my bone in my mouth.
yeah.
We don't
And I mean,
divinate
like,
like
there's
that.
like definitely different, like, there are definitely like different things that, like those like mushroom ceremonies that people do. I feel like you can do specific like substances with the goal of feeling more towards spirit as long as you're being really educated and not putting yourself in a space
Mm,
where you're like so out of control that you can't discern. Ultimately that was what, especially like as somebody who works with St. Paul, that's really what Paul was like talking against, is like being so like essentially like fucked up that you can't
mm,
discern. And if something presents itself to you as God that isn't God, like you'd be able to know. And if you're in such a like a higher disassociated state, you're not going to be able to discern that. So that was really these ultimately, like
yeah.
in Genesis, we are given permission to use every seed bearing plant as like food or medicine. So that includes like certain, things that'll come out of the earth. But it's definitely like making sure you have that like level headedness enough to still be able to
Mm.
discern what is God and what is not.
No, exactly. And beyond that, a lot of people don't know that like a lot of the ceremonial magicians are rooted in Christian magic. Like the Ars
Mm-hmm.
Goetia, the Ars Notoria, both of these are Christian magic. A lot of this is Christian magic. A lot of it cops off of Jewish mysticism too, which is like Saul was condemned for going to the witch burning. Yeah, again, because it's a pagan practice. So like if we look at
Yo, but you
Genesis,
know what? Not for nothing. Saul, one of my favorite Bible people. Look at this cat. This cat right here. His name is Saul, after King Saul
fucking
from the
Saul.
Old Testament. Okay?
But
My husband's like,
anyway,
no, no. He's Saul Goodman, but
but like
no, he's Saul.
Saul was condemned for going to the Witch of Endor, and this is precisely why. So it was a type of practice that was not allowed. It doesn't mean that the whole of magic at all isn't allowed. So you don't do necromancy? No, we don't.
Whoa.
We don't do necromancy. If anything, Jesus is a better necromancer than
Heck
literally any of
yeah.
us. He
He
actually rose a
brought
man.
Lazarus back to life.
Saul
So,
Goodman. But no. So the Witch of Endor was using a pagan practice that was outlawed. Just like if you look at Genesis, Laban actually uses a method of divination that gets banned later in Leviticus. But Joseph, who's out there scrying in pools and interpreting dreams with God, that's totally fine.
hmm yeah, he was Joseph in Genesis, which he spans from, oh gosh, if I'm correct, maybe Genesis 32 all the way up to Genesis 52, if I remember correctly. He was a big chunk of the last portion of Genesis. He used a silver cup for divination. He also used dream prophecy. And he ended up like saving basically all the Israelites because of the position and the divination that he was able to do. I love Joseph from Genesis. He's another one that the Yes Jesus podcast, like the
Hmm.
your friendly Jesus podcast, they have a whole episode on him because he also like does some things that could be tied into like transgender representation in the Bible, and it's like absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend his the episodes of their podcast about him. Really, really, really cool.
Hmm. Absolutely. And also, because I hope they don't think mediumship is necromancy. Yeah, necromancy is like very specific, and also naturally in Judaism, when dead bodies are considered unclean and you don't touch them, necromancy is a no.
Yeah,
You don't
no.
touch like
No, necromancy is like I actually do have a podcast an episode about death work and like what necromancy like is and what it isn't. I did that with my friends Chelsea and Tens. They have a podcast as well called Sticks and Bones, but they focus more on like Hellenistic pagan stuff. But essentially like necromancy is really trying to communicate and like raise the dead back to life.
hmm.
So that's really the difference. I mean, I guess like ancestor work could be considered a form of necromancy in a way, but it's definitely not like the unclean touching of bodies, trying to like raise things
Yeah.
back to life. Like,
I
you
think it's
know,
also like when you try to like bind the dead to your will and like send them out after people. I've seen people do that. They're like, "Oh, the dead eat up your curses that you send at me," or "Oh, I'm gonna send the dead after you." It's like, leave them alone.
yeah, that's
They're
like the
trying to
same
sleep,
thing of like,
goddamn.
yeah, I mean, like also people do that with like demons. It's the same thing. It's like,
Is
don't,
there a difference between magic, witchcraft, and the occult?
No, I think
Um,
the occult is the genre, witchcraft is like the category, and then magic is the action. Does that make sense?
it's yeah, it's kind of like magic is like the thing that make the witchcraft go, you
Go.
know? Like
It's the
it
car.
make it move. It make it do. And like witchcraft is just like a very umbrella term for like in modern times all that kind of stuff that you do with magic, and the occult is specifically like referring in my mind a lot to like the Ars Notoria Goetia, Hermetic Order of
hmm
the Golden Dawn, like all these kinds of ceremonial,
hmm
esoteric things. So it's a little bit different. Um, Many cultures do practice necromancy, very fine, pure, and used. Yeah, so necromancy, I'm sure, is very fine when you're doing it correctly. I don't like the idea of using necromancy, like Dante says, with that forceful summoning or harming the dead, or making them into like your little puppets. That's disrespectful to the dead, in my opinion. They aren't dead just for you to like throw them around like Pokemon. Like,
No, 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 no. You can't like collect them all. That's not how it works. Like who gets to call whom a witch gets to seem to be really important in history. This is something I'm not personally educated on.
well, for oh god, there's like a lot of history to this. I know that in one book I was reading specifically about Slovenian folk magic, a lot, and in fact, the literal like tourist site of Slovenia talks about like magic and herbs and like folk magic and stuff. And they were
hmm
like, yeah, back in the day, ignorant people couldn't tell the difference between like magic and medicine. And so because there were a lot of people who knew how to heal with plants,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and they had all of this knowledge that was kind of disrupting the church, right? People wouldn't go to the
hmm
church for healing. They would go to the people who like had the literal actual medicine. And so naturally they got accused of being witches, of doing all this kind of bad stuff, when in reality, even like to this day, Slovenian folk magic still practiced, especially in rural areas, because they didn't have the money or the time to wait for these expensive German doctors and church priest people to come fix their problems.
Hmm. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense than buying.
Oh, SJ Raven's going to work. Hi, hello. Have a good day at work.
They're no, they're back. They're back from
Oh,
work.
oh, they're back.
Yeah,
Oh my God. I
they
thought they said
came
off
in
to work. Never
before.
mind. Hi.
No,
I was about to say, I was like, wait, they're off to work, but saying
no,
hi.
they came
Well,
back,
welcome
but they
back.
like they were here before, being like, I'm hiding behind the nurse's desk,
Oh my God.
which I love
Oh yeah,
that.
absolutely. If I had to go back in time, I would be dead in a minute. Like I'd be so dead in a minute. Like I'd have to dress up as a I would dress up as a guy. I'm not even kidding. I'd cut my hair off and I would just try to be a dude.
Yeah, no, I'm a rebel. I would not be able to survive. All right, I need to get more water. I'll be right back. Give me like 2 minutes.
Okay. Um but yeah, sorry, I don't mean to make it seem like cultures who do regularly practice necromancy aren't good or okay. I'm just saying like from what I've seen, especially on Witch Talk, people use necromancy for, it's just like as long as you're being respectful to the dead, do whatever you want. I personally don't bother with it because like I don't really need to. It's not like a part of my practice. I don't need to. God says you don't need to, so okay. I've got plenty to work with. Oh shit, look at this go. It says suddenly she's a witch. I mean, it's also just like my great grandmother, my family theorizes was poisoned for being either a witch or better at medicine than her literal doctor because she was the one doing a lot of those old folk remedies and stuff, and so she died at like 30 mysteriously. No one knew why. And so either she was considered a witch or a medicine woman. Doctor didn't like it one way or another. That's like that's like the 1900s. That still happened in the 1900s. So, yeah, Prophet Samuel was angry when his spirit was brought up because he was chilling. He was like minding himself, right? That's like Old Testament. When Jesus died, he went down there and he woke everyone up and said, "Time to get up. Good morning."
That
So
was
now that you can kind
actually
of so 12 brings
completely
up a good point.
forgot about.
Samuel was angry when his spirit was brought up, and I was saying that's because that was before Jesus went down there and woke everyone up and said, like, up and at 'em, let's go.
Mhm.
Before then, they were sleeping. You can ask my boyfriend how pissed off I get when he
It's
wakes me
true.
up. Like, if I'm dead
Oh
and
my
I'm
God.
sleeping, don't call me for shit. Like,
I mean, honestly, like so like this is something like my husband and I feel like my husband brought this up to me the other day. He's like, when Jesus was crucified, didn't he like defeat hell or like something like that? And I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that until this very moment. Because like that's just something that I feel like the church is like, he was crucified and he defeated hell. But now you all have to like live through, you know what I'm saying? It's like something that they
no,
like
but it's
blow past.
I mean, it is so easy to get people to stay in your church when you tell them that at any moment they could be condemned to the spicy land for like the most inane
The
shit.
spicy
So,
land.
like,
No, but that if you say it like that, Sarah, the spicy land, that sounds like something completely different.
that's true. I mean,
You got to say the fire land. I'm just saying.
the the Taco Bell spicy land, the spicy runs land. Do I believe in
The
hell?
spicy. No,
Uh, like, I don't believe
I
it's a
believe in
place people go.
no.
I
I
believe
believe
there's
in
the
like an
infernal realms.
underworld. Yeah, that's it. Like there's the underworld, but there's not like I don't think like you or me could go to hell.
Yeah, I think of it like the demon office, which means if a person ends up down there, it's like when the kid, like someone's kid walks into the office and everyone's like, whose fucking child is this? Like,
Who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? No, that's definitely
what's up,
like
kitty
the
beak?
vibe I get.
I'm
And then
annihilate. No, I have not heard of an annihilationist. Hi, Twelver. I know that we were kind of joshing on you earlier, but I'm glad you stuck around to just genuinely ask questions and hang out. Sorry for roasting and toasting you. I thought you were going to be another one of those people that just, like, can't get
I
out of their own way.
apologize. I apologize that I let the New Yorker come out a little bit too strong.
Yeah, I think it was Lucas who said Slovenian American and Northern, and I was like, there's not even a warm up, dude. There is no like gradually build up to angry. It's just I'm not angry
Oh,
and I'm angry. It's just a
I mean, like, yeah, that's how it is. I mean, I don't think my heritage has anything to do with it because we all know New Yorkers. Like I'm walking here, like this is how we are. But I'm also Italian, so
yeah,
that's
it's
how I
very
be.
it's my mom too. My mom and I will be like totally fine. One thing will happen and then she's yelling. And then like 5 minutes later
Yeah,
she's totally fine again. And we're
fine.
both just like
That'll be like the same. My mom and I will literally will be on the phone. We'll have like a massive fight. I'll be like screaming at her, but she'll be screaming at me. 5 minutes later, Lena, what size shoes is Dexter? Oh,
yes, all the time. Growing up, we'd have this massive fight, and then she'd be like, "What do you want for lunch?" And I'd be like, "Ham and cheese." God,
it was
Irish
so cute.
my Irish Protestant ancestors though, at me talking to Raphael. Oh my God, and again, it's like I don't want to be like mean to other denominations, but I'm like, how did y'all manage to suck all the fun out of the religion? How'd you manage to just take it all out? You're allowed to be
I
sad. That's it.
mean, for real. Like my evangelical church, like all they wanted was for you to feel like shit about yourself all the time, but like be confident in Christ, but feel shit about yourself. I'm like, how does that?
Nope, that's not how
Does
it works.
that?
But okay.
Okay,
My nun is
girl.
Slovenian and Italian culture. I'm not sure either, to be honest, because both of these are volatile as hell. But
What?
also, yeah, like learn about definition of religions. Never heard about Christian witches before. A lot of people don't. I think the reason is this: people get confused because traditionally the word witch did absolutely mean like someone who poisons and harms and does like nasty
Hmm.
stuff. And the people who were defending against them they weren't the church. They were not the church.
No,
The church was there playing like backup support. They weren't really doing anything except taking people's money. It was other people like us who would do the kind of folk magic, the wise woman stuff, the folk healing, and all the other stuff that would break those curses and remove these bad influences. That is still magic. They just didn't call themselves witches.
no.
So
They just
like
called
my
themselves
people,
like
they
folk healers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like my people they said vracharica, which is kind of like a folk healer. And
Hmm.
so technically the stuff I do is more like vracharica work. It's more like folk magic and like folk Catholicism. But I call it witchcraft because it's like if I say, "Yeah, I'm a vracharica," no one's going to know what that means.
Yeah.
Like
It's an
nobody.
easier like umbrella term. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like people will get right
Um,
away that like yes, I like rocks and I like plants. But
yeah.
Christian mysticism is super cool.
It's interesting.
That's why I love Catholicism so much because there's so much interesting stuff in it.
Catholicism definitely has a lot more mystical aspects to it. I feel
Bye, Karma.
my cat just fell off the table.
Nah.
um,
Goodbye,
but no,
Saul.
RIP. But no, Catholicism definitely has a lot more mystical aspects to it than evangelicalism. Or I feel like no, let me revise that sentence. Catholicism, um, oh gosh, my headphones just died. Catholicism has more. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that.
that's okay.
Let's give them 5 minutes and then there'll be a hundo P again, which is like absolutely insane to me.
I
But
wish.
it's insane, Sarah. These AirPods, I'm like, how do they? It's some freaking sorcery. You guys want to talk about witchcraft? This
The
like
freaking
literally,
unicorn case.
it's
Okay.
a unicorn. But yeah, no, I feel like Catholicism recognizes the mysticism that's within it more than evangelicalism does because like not for nothing, like I grew up Catholic. I always saw the ritualisticness of Catholicism. Like to this day, my mom and I will go to my old Catholic church. And my mom's like, Lena, look, they're doing witchcraft like you, like because it's really like ritualistic. But evangelicalism also like we take obviously we take the Eucharist, we celebrate the Holy Spirit. Some of them will speak in tongues. There's a lot of mysticism that exists
Mm.
um, within the evangelical church, and I don't feel like a lot of people recognize that. And I know that evangelicals themselves just do not recognize, they won't like talk about angels like super. However, like I don't know about that because
Oh,
here's the thing. Now as I said that, I'm literally like having a flashback to when I was, so the church that I was affiliated with, the evangelical church, it was called the International Church of Christ. And in order to like become a member of there, you do these like Bible study series, and then get baptized into the church. And I remember the night that I had decided, like, oh, I need to get baptized. This is something I need to do. I had Dexter in my lap. He was a baby, and he just kept staring off to the distance and, like, you know, like pointing at something. And they're like, oh, look, it's the angels. That was the only time in that church ever that, like,
I'm about
somebody
to start
referenced.
swinging at everyone. But no, because I mean, like again, on that Raphael video, everyone was like, "You're talking to demons. They're not angels. They're demons." I'm like, okay, are y'all just atheists? Do y'all just not believe in your religion outside the book? Like, you don't think it exists in the real world? I don't know. But also, Oksana, me too, though. I love being Slavic. I would not trade being Slavic for anything. I love everything about it. But no, back to the angel thing. They're like, "You're talking to a demon. Angels don't talk to people," and I'm like, you literally always have a guardian angel. Like,
Yeah.
next,
Like,
what the
and
hell are
that's
you
like
talking about?
Catholicism definitely, I feel like Catholicism recognizes that. Evangelicalism really does not, because in evangelicalism talking to angels is like prohibited. You're only supposed to be talking to God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Like, that's, at least that's what my church presented. And
But
I
like,
remember,
but
Sarah,
like,
I remember
why?
shitting. I remember shitting so hardcore on people who talk to saints. I'm like, why would you do that if you just talk to God? Like, I still get it. I still get that mindset.
Well,
Like, if you have more
it's
people.
kind of like, yeah, but I think like the Catholic aspect is like in my company, like, am I gonna go to the CEO with my like weird accounts and money problem, or am I gonna go to somebody in finance?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not gonna bother my CEO about this shit. Probably gonna go talk to someone in finance.
No, that's part, like, I feel like that's part of like saint things, and like, I don't know, it's just a very rigid belief to like say you can only talk to God, and ultimately, like, wouldn't saints who are in the same like heavenly realm as God have like similar opinions to him? Like, don't you think
Yeah,
they're like influenced a little bit by being in his presence 24/7?
yeah. And also 12 are biblically not true at all. It wasn't God that told Mary about the coming of Christ.
Oh, it was the angel.
It
Oh my
wasn't
God,
God.
Sarah, it was the angels.
Like,
Look at me just realizing.
fucking Raphael took this dude on a ride. Like, he took Tobit around. He changed his name, put on a little mustache, and was like, hey, Tobit, listen, guess what we're gonna go do? And drag this dude all over town. Go get this fish and marry this random ass lady who was having a demon problem. Burn the fish guts real quick so the demon goes away. And the whole time, Tobit's like, this is my new friend. And then realizes it's Raphael at the last second.
He's like, this is my BFF, just a couple of guys hanging out.
Raphael's got like he's just like, yep, I'm definitely not an angel. But what do we think of Catholicism, high veneration of Mary? I think it's great. I think Mary's cool. I think as the literal mother of God, that like she, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, very cool.
I think honestly for me, Mother Mary veneration is really complicated because I really do love the fact that the Catholic Church does venerate some sort of divine feminine. However, I feel like that veneration is put in the wrong place because it should be for the goddess. However, like, listen, this is horrible, but women right now, women in the church, we can't be picky and choosy. So if they're gonna honor Mary, then
Take
you know
them,
what? We gotta take it.
take
We
them.
gotta take what we got and show
Oh
them we
god.
want more, like, kind of
Well, for
thing.
me, I remember someone made a very good difference between like worship and veneration. Worship is like these very specific like sacrifices and offerings and
Yeah,
like a respect unparalleled. Veneration is more just like really high respect, but like not at God's level. So it's like, okay, I see it. And also it's like an angel appearing is different than and not really. When I talk to the angels, they appear to me.
they appear the
Angels can do
way.
whatever God wants them to do. So
Honestly, like, I feel like the angels, like, they, so here's like a story, like, kind of like for me. Archangel Michael was in my life for a long time before
Mm.
I realized it, kind of thing. And I feel like the angels will really like sit back and kind of just coast with you until the time where they really need to make themselves apparent, if they ever need to make themselves apparent. Like, I don't feel like they are in the sense like God, where God really does want that worship, does want that praise. I feel like the
Mm.
angels more like, kind of passive in that. And when they do need that kind of recognition, they will make themselves known. Like, I keep going back to this because it was a huge spiritual thing for me. But like my car accident, after like 6 or 7 months after, I had readings done and about it, and like the two separate readers that I went to pulled out Archangel Michael cards. And after that, I felt like it was him being like asked to be like, thanked for that whole event, for keeping me and my kids safe during then. So I invited him into my practice for that specific reason, for like protection over my kids, to just thank him, sort of thing. And that's that. And I kind of use him more passively than I would God. And I feel like that's like okay for the angels as well. They don't need to be such a direct part of your practice.
Yeah. And so like for me it's like it's always me and God. Like for me it's more like if an angel's coming to me, I'm assuming I see Lucas is coming.
Guys,
If an
that
angel's
was
coming to
funny.
me, I'm assuming God's allowed it, right? That's the thing. Like before I do these things, I'm always like, first of all, God's the gatekeeper of my space. He's the one who decides who's in here and who's not. So
Mm-hmm.
like, if I'm talking to a pagan deity, I'm like, God, please like open the door, let them in, but only them, right? Like no fakes or anything. I
Yeah.
want the real deal. And God's like, all right, enjoy. And if it's an angel, I'm like, please let them come talk to me. Like let them out, and then they pop up. Oh my God, like I think Saint Dismas was like probably one of the most like intense experiences with a human, formerly human soul, because like he was so like hyped about Jesus. Like he was so hyped about Jesus. He was like Jesus, and I was like, oh my God. But like that's another thing. Like you have to test the spirits. You have to ask them if Jesus is their Lord. I'm like that's kind of like a really bad way to discern because they can fucking lie. But okay, so like
Especially when you're
I
trying to
tried.
turn a Norse pagan deity, like, hey Loki, is Jesus your lord? He literally goes like, oh no, like
Yeah,
that's bad.
Loki's gonna be that kid wearing the shirt that says "Who the fuck is Jesus?" Like he's
Yo, I so
gonna be like,
I loosely work with Loki because my husband, he's of Norse descent, and our second baby Scott is literally chaos incarnate. Okay, like genuinely. So Loki came kind of to help me deal with him because it's a lot, sort of thing. And when you see Loki and Jesus interact, I'm not a huge like visual Claire person, but for some reason Loki I see very clearly. And when I the way that he harasses Jesus, it's like literally like a little bit, hey, 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 like all around him, and Jesus is just like, oh my gosh, like this,
yeah.
who let him into this space?
So,
Jesus is so patient, and God is just sitting there like, I told her to talk to him.
oh my God, I remember that very first interview I did when all of a sudden Loki's telling me the same things God were, and I look God dead in the eye and I'm like,
What?
this is setup, boy? And he's just like, so, but I am Catholic, pretty much. I am not confirmed or anything, but I still consider myself Catholic. It's just that,
I got kicked out before I
Catholic.
could get confirmed.
My mom wouldn't let me go because she knew I was going to fight the priest about gay marriage and stuff. She knew I was. At first I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't want to get my confirmation, Mom. I don't need to. Why do I need to? Whatever. And then eventually later I was like, Mom, I want to do it. And she's like, all you're gonna do is fight. All you're gonna do is get kicked out and waste everyone's time. I'm like, shut up.
That's really
But
it. But no, but that's what
but
happened to
like
me. I did fight, and I got kicked out. So
it's like oopsie doo. Which I don't
it
care.
was
Like
it
what the
was a
hell?
perfect storm of me debating the CCD teachers and the priest, and
Mm.
me also dyeing my hair black at that same time. And then I was also being bullied by guys who were in the church. So like getting rid of me was just getting rid of a whole big problem in their eyes.
That was
So
like a 3-for-1 deal. Goddamn. That was like
it
a
was like it was a
hey.
problem for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they got me out. So
Literally, this is where it's like, I don't know, I stopped going to church and then like I tried going back and I was just like thoroughly unimpressed with everything and everyone. I only like churches when there's nobody in it and no one's talking. I
I
like the ritual of it, but it's like I don't like the people because I don't know
it,
them.
I can't. I've thought about it. Like the last time I went to a church was when I was in the cult, so it was probably 2019. And I've thought about it because, like, funny enough, the place that I was in the accident was literally like right outside of a church, right outside. So I'm like being like, maybe for the year anniversary, I should go on a Sunday and just like see what it's like, sort of thing. But I'm also
Mm.
like, do I want to re-traumatize myself in a place that I've already experienced a lot of trauma?
You could just go in there with Baba's spoon with the full intention to fight somebody.
It's like, will it be healing or
Um,
traumatic?
like
The question remains.
for me, it's like I would go back to church if I knew the church was like not stupid, and like actually understood
I don't
humans'
think that
rights, and
exists in
like
upstate New York. Like, damn. Like, I'm sorry.
I, I don't I don't know if I could find
My
him. I mean,
cult,
my
my
child is just very
anti-queer, anti-women cult was in like downstate, super liberal New York. So, here upstate, R.I.P.
well.
me. Like, no.
Even bad people need safe spaces, apparently. I don't know. But
It's just.
yeah, this is why it's like I don't want to deal. I walked into a Revelation Bible study after a day of studying Enoch. I almost picked many fights. Thoughts on Pope Francis? Is Pope Francis the current
I
one?
have no thoughts on the Pope. I have zero.
Like the only thing I like about this Pope is that like he understands science like at all. And so he's like, "Hey, why do we keep trying to fight evolution? That's fucking stupid." Like I don't know why can't people just be like evolution did it, God did it. Like why is that difficult? Like
I
just
mean, I also don't understand like why can't the story of Adam and Eve also exist with evolution? Like it literally says that Cain went off to the land of Nod and got a wife. Okay, so
like
where was this wife created from? Even in my ICOC, they were like it was probably evolution. Other people were probably created through evolution, and like Adam and Eve is a very specific story. And I'm like, huh, that's like really progressive of you for a cult, but okay. So
because it's just like so
Papa.
don't think Adam and Eve no, dude. Like Adam and Eve is that's not like real. Like that's
But like
I
here's the
mean
thing. I kind of do think that they might have been real people, and like science actually has like the whole Eve theory that we all came from one specific woman, so it does actually support Eve. So I'm like,
I yeah, 12 or same thing. I believe in a combination of evolution and creation, same. So I think like Adam and Eve like weren't real in like the exact way the story was written, right? Where everything just magically boop, boop, popped up. But like I do think that eventually we kind of, we have all that common ancestor, and I think if anything, I think that one thing we all came from might have been like the first amoeba or something. Eve might have probably just been like an amoeba. And so like everything splits off into a bunch of different types of things. We once were not people, we were like some kind of primate, so on and so forth. Maybe Adam and Eve were following the specific story of people. That's fine. But like, why mitochondria Eve and chromosomal Adam? That's right. Eve was the actually this is the thing. Eve should have been the OG in the story because like the first life was like XX. I don't know why Adam gets all the cred.
yeah.
Like came from Noah.
No,
Oh
I
shit.
don't. I don't
Oh
really
shit.
know
True.
why. That's what that made me
True.
laugh so freaking hard. Like that's hysterical. That's so true, though. Oh my gosh,
But
Mimi, that was
Mimi's
a good one.
Mimi's totally right. We all came from Noah. We're not even from
We all
Adam and
came from
Eve
the same.
because well, I mean
But wait, but
technically
no,
it
technically Noah did come from
technically
that whole line, wasn't he? Oh gosh, he was Enoch's kid,
oh,
wasn't he? And Enoch
was it?
was what's his name's kid? He was one of their
Roxanne is
kids.
asking how she can know who her guardian angel is. To be honest,
Uh,
it's a little tough. Hold on. I think my guardian angel thought I was an idiot for like 6 years, but that's fine. So like because right I remember one time I was trying to do like an angel meditation when I was still like a teenager, and I remember getting like I was like, okay, so what's your name? And I got like the most vivid like flash of like the letter Z in like Times New Roman, and I'm like, Z, okay, it must start with Z. So I called him Z for the longest time, and then God's like, you got to start working with Zadkiel. And I'm like, okay. And I don't really think archangels can be guardian angels. I think that like
no.
there's like a whole cast
Well,
of guardian angels. I mean, they could,
yeah.
but also like
Well,
Sort
See,
maybe.
here's like what I kind of think, and this is just my personal opinion. I don't have this from anywhere, so like don't take it as like, Bible. But I personally think that like our ancestors are our guardian angels, and maybe like the people that we were in our past lives, they could also be our guardian angels because they like are vested in our soul's growth kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like think that there are sometimes archangels will like step in to guard us at like specific instances and very intense circumstances. Like when I was saying,
Yeah.
like Michael was the one who stepped in, with what happened with me, kind of thing. I think in very particular and like life or death almost situations, the archangels will definitely be a little bit more on the forefront.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think archangels definitely can help and definitely can be guardians. But I think the one dude who's like attached to me and like saved me from bonking my car into like 18 different things.
Yes.
Um that one was a different story. But so Zadkiel, right? I'm like, okay, Zadkiel, guys, like you gotta start working with him. And then I'm like, for some reason I was like, does this have to maybe do with your rising sign? And then all of a sudden I find out Zadkiel, he is actually associated with Sagittarius,
Oh
okay?
wow.
And I think just like like kings and princes have legions of demons, archangels have legions
Mm-hmm.
of angels that they deal with.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I take this book, The Angels and Archangels, I open up the Angels of Sagittarius, and I just start going down the lists and start asking, is this your name? Is this your name? Is this your name? Now this probably isn't a complete list, but apparently it worked because I landed on one, I started getting this big ringing, and when I looked him up, he's the angel that gives you energy from arguing with people.
Oh my God,
And I
Sarah,
was
that's
like,
not
shut
you.
up. I was like, shut up right now. It
What
says in the
book is
book,
that?
this is Damien equals angels and archangels. That specific thing about arguments was in a different one, but this one says he helps with patience and strength while undergoing adversities and to weaken the power of those who seek to victimize you. So I'm just like,
That's hysterical. Oh my gosh.
shit.
Oh my
So
God.
I
So
guess
I
that's
got
why I'm
called
out
out by an
punching
angel.
everybody.
Hmm.
I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, and I saw him, and I remember I had like this image of him that was very much just like my own imagination, because like I was like, I like when angels look like that. But then he actually showed up, and he had like these brown eagle wings with like bits of gold feathers, and he had these
Hmm.
big like horns coming around the side, and like a lot of eyes, and like
Yeah, a lot of
I
eyes.
viscerally saw like a throne that opened him, and I see why they freak people out because they're not just like a little wheel with eyes. Like those eyes like bulge and like they look very like
They're
grotesque
creepy.
sometimes.
Yeah,
And I'm just
it's
like,
creepy.
hi.
It's creepy. I really hope that when it's like game over for Lina, that is not the first thing I see is one of those scary ass angels. Like I really hope
Because
like
like
I see
I've
like my dog or something sweet. Even
right.
you know what? I'll even take like Saint Paul like coming and harassing me at the pearly gates over that. Like straight up.
And like I've seen angels be like wild before, like Raphael and Michael, I've seen them be just a big eyeball with wings before, and I'm just like, that's cool. But like this one I was really like, oh shit,
No,
that's
see, that's one
that's
thing with my
intense.
deities. My deities really do, and my spirits come to me in very much human form because I'm a Taurus, and if they come to me in any other form, I'm like, what the fuck are you? This is not real.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why Raphael freaked me out so bad because he like didn't care to look like a person at all. He was just like, I like Byzantine art, so I'm just gonna look like a drawing. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, don't. He literally had a helmet on at one point. He's like, if it's that distracting, I'll just. And I'm like, okay. But actually, the Angel of Pisces are cool. They're associated with the color crimson, and one of them helps you discover the identity of thieves, which is interesting.
What?
So the angels are kind of the Catholic Church actually complained about how many angels there are because there are so many that like
Well, I
they just
mean,
kept
like,
finding more and they were like, what the fuck?
no, that's, I
But
mean, there's a lot of angels. So if they say, do not be afraid, yeah, that's why they say, do not be afraid because they're fucking terrifying. Don't give them ideas.
they're
Paul would show up
they're
to harass
wild.
you. Paul would
Also,
show up to
like
harass me.
I remember I talked to Azazel and my guardian angel. Like, have you ever seen that TikTok video of like the cat and the owl's like puffed up? The owl's like like literally a ball. It's so puffed. That was my guardian angel the whole time I was talking to Azazel, and I was like, "Can you relax
Can you just
for a
calm
minute,
down?
for 1 minute?" Like he
You
was
need to
so
calm.
uppity, and I was like, we're all fine. Everybody's fine. We're all okay."
That's so
Oh, the
funny. My
Seraphim was super
deities are
cool.
like not like that with me at all. I feel like they like because I'll when I do like soul contract readings for other people with like their deities and whatnot, I'll get like them in the this in my space. Like I've had a hell in my space before. She has like some funky energy. It's like really cool. And she like came like put her hand on my shoulder. Apollo, when I do readings with Apollo, that oh my God, he has like some chaotic, and it's not like Loki chaotic where it's like, haha, I'm messing with you. It's just like, here, you're gonna try to do a card reading with me. I'm gonna throw all of your cards on the floor, pick them up, like do 52 pickup right
Ah,
now. That's
I
it.
feel
It
so
was
bad.
so he
No,
had
yeah,
an
like
energy.
I
Yeah,
still to this day feel really bad about my absolutely fumbled interview with him because like he really was not happy with me. He really didn't like it. Like I felt like I was pulling teeth and he was just like, "Who do you think you are?" And I was like,
who do you think
yeah."
you are? Like, no,
I was like,
he's very much just weird. Like it's personally not an energy. I understand why people would like to work with him. Personally, not an energy I would like care to work with. It's just so all over the place in my opinion. But like my deities are kind of like experience it, like have fun, like go to the
yeah,
wolves.
yeah,
Like we're protecting
God's
you. Like it's okay.
okay. Do you get suspicious of God when he lets you do something? Because now I do, okay? It's not that I don't trust him, it's that like sometimes I'm like, "God, can I do this?" And he's like, "Sure, if you want." And then I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I find
That's
out
because he wants
the
you
more
to
you fuck
learn.
around, yeah, the
You
more
fuck
you
around, you'll
fuck
find
around, the more
out.
you're gonna find out. So then I
Yeah.
end up finding out a lot, and then God's like, "Are you satisfied now?"
Yeah, no, honestly, as a parent, I understand it, and that's why I'm not sus of it, because I get it. Because it's like at some point, it's like you could tell your kid 100 times not to touch the
Oh
stove,
yeah,
but if they're curious about it, they're
they
gonna
gotta
touch it.
touch this stuff. God loves letting me touch the shit out of that stove. And then he's just like, "Cool. Anyway, so here's a band-aid." But
He's
oh,
like,
Lucas is talking about Slavic deities. I just gotta be like, right now, Sneak and his wife Vesna have like stepped out a little bit because it's like getting closer to winter and they're like summer spring deities. But one time I was seeing the wildest shit. I was like, "What are you guys trying to show me? What the like?" They kept bringing me to a snowy field and there was this guy with a horn and a mask, like, and he had horns on the mask, and it
oh
was like
gosh,
Ukrainian patterns on the sleeves. And like I was like, "Who is this?" And I should have known. That's his father-in-law. That's Veles. And I was like, oh, oopsie. And Veles is like a whole separate, like, Loki is kind of like a fun-ish chaos. Loki's there for a good time. Veles is there to fuck shit up for fun, but like not in a mean way. Just to fuck shit up for fun.
yeah, like the adversary in Job, similar energy. Yeah,
Kinda, except that he's more just like, I'll turn your whole life up. So I'll put it back, but we'll have fun first. And it's just
mm,
like, oh boy.
no, I feel it. So 12, a soul contract reading is when you look at the energy between a person and a deity, a person and another person, or even a person and a pet, and it evaluates the connection that those two souls have, how they're meant to grow with each other, what they're meant to learn from each other. With deity soul contract reading, it's a lot about connecting with that particular deity and figuring out why they're in that person's life and what they specifically need to learn in that moment. They're a lot of fun. I will say, I think soul contract readings are like my favorite now. They're real fun.
Which is like, maybe I should get one because I'm curious.
They're fun as
But
fuck.
but what was
How do
I
you
had 18
interact?
different thoughts.
Whatchamacallit?
Oh
Here's a
yeah,
question. How do you
that's what I was.
interact with deities from different pantheons and Christian entities? I feel like with other entities, for me, it's a lot more casual. It's kind of like they know that like I have a very specific covenant with the Abrahamic God, with the Abrahamic pantheon, and I'm not interested in breaking that covenant. But we can like chill and be friends, kind of thing. Um, so obviously, like with respect, I'll like go to them and specifically on behalf of like other people, usually to try to like figure out again through soul contract what they're kind of trying to work through. But I work with Loki, and the way I work with him is very, very, very casually. I like literally, I don't even light his candle because I bought him a candle and I sniffed it all up and down because I have a severe fragrance allergy. And I sniffed it all over the place, couldn't smell anything. So I'm like, okay, this is safe to buy. I bought it, lit it, and it's like full of fragrance. And I had a huge allergy attack the first time I lit Loki's
Why is that
candle.
the most Loki shit on earth?
It is the most Loki shit. So I don't even like use a candle for him or nothing because I'm like, you bitch. Like, I'm not replacing that candle for you now. Like, you got to deal
Oh
with it.
shit.
Um,
See,
so
for me actually, ironically, it's the other way around. For me it's like I am like I have boundaries with God where like I don't like call him mean things, obviously, but like I'm very much like I very much headbutt with him quite a bit and like complain loudly and I'm just like, dude, please. And but with deities that
mhm.
I'm especially meeting for the first time, I try to like, act like I'm inviting a stranger over for the first time and I'm just like, "Hi, here's a gift. Nice. We're gonna just chat a little bit." And like I remember although some infernals like don't understand or like that. So I think like with Azazel, I was kind of like I had to not only Lucifer too had to like explain to him 8 times that like if I were really trying to be disrespectful, I would be using like 10-point words and speaking like a Harvard educated lawyer because
Yeah.
I would be very rude and like condescending, but I'm trying to be friendly with you. This is a sign of respect, ironically. And eventually he was like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah. No, I agree with you in the sense that I don't call God mean names. I will be like, what the F, God? What the hell was that? Like, kind of thing. I think that's just like, or like now in music, I will sing the words God damn. I didn't sing that for years, but now, wow, I'll do it. Oh my gosh, what a, how rebellious of me. But like, yeah, I definitely like curse at Loki. I definitely call him like a little shit.
I did
Um,
curse that.
my whole relationship, I told him, if you're gonna be part of my practice, I'm going to make fun of you and I'm gonna roast you to shit. He's like, okay, cool, I get to do the same to you. I'm like, all right, bet. So for me, like,
All right.
I talked a lot before was about like song spell work. So for me, Loki, his song is Getaway Car because Taylor Swift wrote that song about Tom Hiddleston, who played Loki, and it's kind of like a diss track to him. So it's kind of being like, didn't you expect me to leave you? Because like I was just drunk and drinking when I met you, kind of thing. And it's a fantastic song, and I love to harass Loki with it. And that's the relationship I have with him. It's very fun. It's
See,
very like comic relief. It's very much take the chaos of my kids. You deal with them. Like that's how it works.
that's like me and Kitty Sneak. With me and Kitty Sneak, it's like I love him so much. He really, the first time I met him, I'm like, this is the most Slovenian entity I've ever met in my life. He literally had like, because Slovenians do this fun thing where like everything is terrible and everything is bad, but they'll be like, that's all right. And it's very clearly not all right, but they're like, nah, that's fine. Like that was so him. He was like,
Yeah.
it's okay that like all of my people got taken away. Yeah. I was like, oh, oopsie. But he's very much like chill. He's like, I have my cows, I have my fields, I will hear nothing. And like the
Yeah.
stories of him are so funny. Like he got caught cheating on his wife and then he died because she went outside and shouted at him while he was working on his roof of his house and he fell off the roof and died.
That's hysterical.
Our boy.
That's
But so like with us, it's just like tea times and chats. His wife, like Vesna, is always like, "Why are you here?" Like she's always like, "Do you really just want to chat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just want to chat." And she's like, "I don't fucking believe you." And I'm like, I
no, I
don't know what else
can't.
you want. Uh,
They're interesting. Working with other deities, like the Abrahamic pantheon, is definitely interesting. I think that the only like rule, and that this will go back to like the Bible with the commandment being like, "You shall not have any other gods before me." It's not
mm,
saying do not have any other gods. It's saying don't have any other gods before me. So like I don't put any other god relationship before my god, my relationship with the Abrahamic God. Like I know there's going to be a day that Loki's probably not going to be a part of my practice, probably not going to be a part of my life. Like when my kids get older and like my life is a little bit more
mm,
settled and there's not as much chaos to feed off of. Why is he going to hang around? Kind of thing.
right. Now I feel
Which is
that.
fine.
This is a good question. Where do pagan deities fall in my worldview? So like I'm a henotheist. So, omnist is like believing all things are true in some way. A henotheist is like all gods exist, but only one is like the crown jewel. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, it like think about McDonald's as a company
Yeah.
and think about how it has one CEO but multiple different branches across the world. And
Hmm.
so obviously the McDonald's in China is going to have very different menu items than the McDonald's in Ireland. And it's kind of like that. God is the CEO, and all of these pantheons are like different chains that do different things and oversee different areas, you know?
Hmm.
They're all working together.
No, I definitely, that's part of like, that's kind of how I see it. I'm more of an omnist in the sense that I do believe all gods and goddesses exist and are valid and like rule over their own things. I do think at some point that they're all creation of source. I believe God to be source. So that's ultimately, I believe everything is a creation of source kind of thing.
Mm.
If you don't believe that, that's cool. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, your God was created by my God. No, I really don't care what you believe. This is what I believe. This is what makes sense to me, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, and this is like, and again, this is where when I got my ass handed to me by Apollo, I was like, it doesn't matter what I believe, where everyone came from. All that matters to them, literally, is that you
That,
respect their framework.
yep.
Like I can think whatever the hell I want. They're like, as long as you come here with washed hands and offering, and you say the proper respectful invocations, and you check your auspices and all that, great.
Hmm.
Because they're like, I literally don't give a shit what your problem is. All I care about is that you're not dirtying my space.
Yeah. No, that's literally it. That's literally it. As long as you're being respectful, they don't care. All right, let me go run to the bathroom for 2 seconds. I drank like two of these like already, so you know.
Oh my God, I haven't even drank like one glass of water.
No, I drink a lot of, especially if because I also had a glass of wine. So I'm like, if I'm gonna drink a glass of wine, I have to drink like seven of
Oh,
these. You know,
see, I was just thinking when you get
the
back, I'm taking a
balance.
break to get some more blueberry stuff. Look,
All right, cool, cool. I'll be right back.
but
But
yeah, 12. Yeah, that's correct. Beelzebub was a Canaanite god. There are a lot of infernals that actually were gods, um, or at least angels, which is very interesting. And from my understanding, like a normal low-level demon is something more like a fairy, and that like infernal, like demons are down in the infernal realms, fairies are here on Earth, and then there are tiny angels too. There are smaller angels. I'm asleep. Good night, Jacqueline. Thanks for hanging out. It was good times. But let's see. There's like a whole lot of conversation going on up here. But and one someone was saying they feel intuitively blocked. In my opinion, that is a sign that it is time to take a break, rest, remove yourself. Um, can you repeat what you said? Oh, Jacqueline, I was just saying good night. Thanks for hanging out. It was good times. I should probably go live more often because this is fun. But yeah, so when intuitively blocked, I remember at one point recently I was feeling very blocked, and I was like, I don't know why nothing seems to be coming through the channel. It's because I was exhausted. It's because I needed to take a nap and stop working on stuff. So if you're depleted, you're not going to be able to hear things. Before that, I've already forgotten actually. But Magic, if you've never been open, it might just be that like you might not know how to recognize things like feelings and messages. They're hard to recognize if you don't know what to recognize. So this is why I like things, like tarot cards because they are very much like physical, visible items. And so I remember at one point I was just kind of pulling. I was like doing the thing where like, oh, the first one that falls out at you is the card, and like I wasn't getting the best readings, but eventually I found out, and God and I worked it out. There's a little like in my ear, literally, it's like a pinging. When I land on a certain card and I poke it, and God's like, yep, 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 that one. And then I pull it, and this is how my readings end up pretty accurate because he picks the card. But before I had that little pinging, I was just sitting there like pulling random stuff, and I was like, took me a while to figure out how to do that. Oh, low level demons. Low level demons. Yeah, I feel like low level demons and fairies and low level angels are like all the same kinds of things, just in different spaces. like fairies, the
Hmm.
smaller fairies, they're like earth versions, and then demons are infernal and angels are like divine and cosmic. But they're all small spirits. So you can absolutely have a problem with demons because the smaller demons they kind of need to be corralled a little bit. That's why the infernal kings spend a lot of time trying to contain the legions because they get a little fritzy on their own. Yes,
Hmm.
fairies are real. Fairies are very real.
Hell yeah, fairies are real. Oh my gosh. Go take your break. Go get what you need. I'll tell my fairy
Oh yeah.
story. So one time, my kids and I were playing outside for a while, and we were playing right by the like mailboxes where in the complex that we live, you have to walk like about like a block and a half to get to the mailboxes from like my house. So we're playing at the mailboxes. Nobody goes near my mailbox. Not a single blessed soul went near my mailbox, right? And I had checked it before, and then I said to myself, "Hey." Well, before we started playing, I said, "Let me just check it again for funsies." And I open it, and there's a freaking pine cone in there, and I just knew, it was a fairy. I just knew there was no other thing in God's creation that would want to leave a freaking pine cone in my mailbox. So after that, I built them a little fairy garden outside. And I said that you guys can have this fairy garden that's outside. You can't come into my house. And I've never had a problem with a fairy ever since. The acorn, what happened with oh my God, the acorn in my car. Didn't I like spill something in my car and then all of a sudden like a random acorn just appeared? Was that? Oh, that no, it was the blueberries, right? Yeah, I spilled a bunch of blueberries in my car, and we like picked them up, and then
Blueberry.
all of a sudden, in the pack of blueberries, there's this random fucking acorn. Neither my husband or I picked up this acorn because the texture of a acorn is very different from a blueberry. So somebody would have realized it. So yeah, they also gave me an acorn. Didn't I throw it back into the earth or something? I think I threw it. I said, "That's awesome,
That's so funny.
cool, bye."
What? God, no. I don't have like weird problems like that. I do have problems where someone moves my things. And a lot of times it's just me forgetting where I put them, but sometimes I'm like, I know I swear to God I
Sounds
put that
adorable.
down right there and it is no longer there. It's always somebody moving my shit.
Don't throw it.
But there you go. Prost, as my family says. Or zdravo, I guess.
Listen, what do we say? Salute.
This is blueberry liquor. This is not
Salute.
wine. This is
That's just
this is
straight
straight.
liquor.
It's blueberry. It's like blueberry liqueur. So it's like
Liqueur.
it's dessert. It's so sweet. It's so blueberry,
Yeah. It's like
and it will get. Oh my
limoncello.
God. Speaking, I had
Well,
the
I'm
most Slavic experience. I had the most
let's hear
Slavic
it. Keep
experience when I
going.
went to like my mom's cousin's house, and my dad was like that when you go to Vita's house, you will eat so much. You will eat so much that you will die. And then, but before we left, my dad's
Die.
like, you have to, he was like, you have to eat something before we go. I'm like, Dad, you were just talking about how much we're going to eat. He goes, if you do not eat something before you go, she's going to give you like 6 shots upon walking in the door. You're going to die. I'm like, oh, sure enough. I had like a little ice cream or something before we left. We get there. And immediately she's like, here's a shot of Jaeger. She puts a whole unopened handle of gin in front of me and is like, do you want that? I drank like literally over half of it by the end of the night.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
blasted. I ate so much they kept bringing out plate after plate after plate of like pork and chicken and like ham, and I was like, oh my God. And then my aunt's like, oh yeah, we raise our own pigs, so look. And as I'm like mid pork bite, she shows me a video of her slaughtering the pig, and I'm like, please,
that that was not appetizing, my aunt.
please.
No, that's
Well,
not.
I learned I'm not a vegan because I could still eat the pork, but I was also like, oh my God. So an entire handle of gin, several shots of Jaeger, and like half a Christmas feast later. It was like 8 hours later that we finally went home, and I thought I was gonna die. I was not interested in food for another like 2 days.
No, how could you
It
be
was
after
it
that? Oh
was
my gosh.
it was crazy. It was so good though. It was so good.
Now my family, because all the older generation got like too old, now we cater all of our events. Like like when we go to like my Italian family, they'll cater everything. Um, so like the last thing they did was like this pizza catered event, and it was really cute. But that's where I would discover the ideals of barefoot wine rosé. I was like, oh, That is my new jam.
The
Thank you.
wine, the wine's the good stuff. Yes,
The
I never used to be a
barefoot.
wine girl. I never used to be a wine girl. Eventually, I finally learned how to like wine. Now I like wine, but I still prefer literally just a glass of liquor. It's like it
No,
tastes like a dessert. I don't know how to describe it. It's so sweet and blueberry.
but that's, I mean, like some of them are like that. I mean, liquor wise, I'm definitely a tequila girly, and like listen,
Oh, I love tequila.
cocktail choice is really questionable. I love to mix tequila with kombucha. Quite honestly, any hard liquor with kombucha is really, really good because the kombucha cuts out the flavor completely.
I gotcha.
But it's actually really, really, really good. Um, I was
Oh,
almost gonna get the pink Moscato. Okay, so next time I go to my liquor store, I'll get the pink Moscato, and I'll tell you if I like it, Francie. Um, but I'm Italian, so I can't not be a wine girly. You know, it's like in my
what?
blood, it's in my
Oh
veins.
my.
I grew up like watching my Aunt Irma, going and cooking family dinner for like 50 of us with her, like, glass of Sauvignon Blanc and like, being like,
Mm,
Michael to her son, Michael, pour me more. Like being neurotic in the kitchen. I'm like, I want to be like that when I'm old.
yeah. No, for me it was like, and like I don't know. Everyone likes beer too. I don't like beer. I can't really get into beer.
I like
Although
beer.
I will say, best beer I ever had was in Austria because like it wasn't filtered really, so it was
Hmm.
just it was like it actually felt like it had some substance. I was like, I could deal with that. But like I go to America and the beer just ain't it. Had a honey wine. Oh, I love honey wine. God, I love honey wine. I had something that was just like this liquor, but it was honey version.
Ooh.
It's like made of God's tears. I don't know. It's so good. Like
I mean,
it
like literally though, because like milk and honey. So like literally, God's tears is honey liquor.
like it was so good. I was like, I could drink this forever. But what was it? Definitely sweet. Yeah, I that's the thing. I need my liquor to
Sweets.
be sweet.
Hmm.
I need the rosés and the sweet whites
Girly
and like
drinks, fruity
yeah, all that
drinks,
kind of stuff.
floral. Give me that flavor. That's personally why I don't like beers or like darker alcohols, is because they're like too heavy. You know,
Yeah.
I like
I
the
tried to chug when
sweet
it
and
wasn't
light.
good.
I
Mm,
recently got a wrestler wine made locally here in New York, and it was made out of like maple syrup from New York. I'm like, wow, it's so good.
yeah.
Mm.
David asked what shadow spirits are.
They're the
Democrat
shadows. They're like
well,
the
shadow
right.
spirits. Wait, also, holy shit, Democrats retain control of the Senate. Yes! Alright, but moving on. That's about Tarot and the Unicorn. The Fool fell out. Is that a yes? The Fool is, well, David, we'll get back to your question in a second. The Fool is a card of, like
I don't
complete
think you should
childish,
use.
it's complete
Yeah,
childish, like innocence and openness to the world, and it's also a marker of completely, like, step one new beginnings.
it's
So
a
I
very
think,
go for it card, but I personally don't think you can use tarot um for yes or no. That's, I feel like
he,
it's a little bit more difficult to use tarot for yes or no.
yeah,
It's really hard to
I
get
would
like a
use like a
direct
pendulum
answer.
or something for that, but
I can't do
but
pendulum work. Oh my gosh, my arms shake so freaking bad.
I'll be like sitting here holding my shit like
I
this,
just
like to make
can't
it
do
not
it.
shake.
I can't.
No, I don't. Jacqueline, I think that's like I think what that card signifies there is that like if you believe you saw a unicorn, chase it. Like find it, go
Hell
get it,
yeah.
and like identify it, I think is what it's saying. But David was asking about those shadow spirits. Personally, I have no idea what the fuck they are. People talk about shadow spirits. I think that they are something that is kind of
They're
just
like
like
the so
curious about you.
there's the shadow, so shadow spirits are like, or like the shadow realm is like when you like go in the sun and you see your shadow on the floor, that is a shadow spirit. Or if they're malicious or beneficent, that's up to you, sort of thing. That's what
Oh,
you believe, kind
like
of
Peter
thing.
Pan.
Yeah, it's like yeah, like that essentially. But then there's also like shadow work, working with the shadow side of yourself. That just means like the darker, more like negative side of yourself. So like if you were here earlier, I was saying like before I was really like a Jesus freak, your girl was an angry person, right? So like for me, my shadow self is this like pissed off bitch who's raging 24/7. And that's who I need to connect with when I'm doing shadow work. I mean, like obviously there's more to it because there's a lot of facets of shadow work, but there's either
Mm.
the shadow realm of like, like literally your shadow, of like seeing the shadow in the sun kind of thing, or the shadow self of like working with the darker aspects of yourself in order to heal them and gain knowledge and wisdom from them and grow, sort of theme.
I think also like when people, I know people talk about like the shadow person at the end of the hall. I think that like that just is any spirit that's trying to
Yeah.
spy on you. Well, not spy, but like sometimes spirits get curious. For me, I don't see shadow people. You know what happened the other night that I was like, what the hell? Now, if it happens again, I'm gonna try and find out what it is because last time I just kind of pushed it out. But like, have you ever been laying in bed like in the dark and like your whole forearms just like light up?
No.
Okay, well for me, I was like sitting in the dark, and then like all of a sudden, I just got this like feeling of like a cat's fur standing up on its back, like on me, and I'm laying there in bed, and I'm like, I literally need to sleep. So if you're not like of God or have something important to say, I need you to get out of here.
Yeah.
I was like,
Like you
I
need
do
to
not
go.
have time. And eventually it left. Like it left shortly after, but like I really felt like the hair on my arms like stand up, and I was like, I don't have the patience for this right now. Don't.
No, there are definitely like there was one time my husband and I were laying in bed and then all of a sudden like I heard like some sort of like laughing sound coming from like the back door and it was like the fucking middle of night. So there's no like our kids were asleep. It was like really really creepy. I don't necessarily have experiences like that though where um like I'll have like spirits come and like touch me at night or something. And I do think part of that, and I know this might sound crazy, is having animals, specifically having cats. Cats can walk in between the physical realm and the spirit realm. That's why like they say if there's somebody in your life who's dying or like close to that like end of life stage, talk to a cat about it and like help that like ask them to help you process your feelings because they'll be able to like talk to the spirit realm kind of thing. So because of that, I don't feel like there's a lot of paranormal activity in my home. I also think that like the
Hmm.
cats that we have, obviously, so like Saul, I specifically like went out and sought him and like I bought him, but Bowser, or not bought him, I adopted him. Bowser was more of like fallen into our lap kind of thing, and he's definitely like connected to me in a very, very particular way. He like,
I can
yeah,
still hear you.
yeah,
Keep talking. I gotta go find a charger.
I get you. But he's very connected to me. He sleeps with me at night, like literally will sleep like next to me. So I don't think that like maleficent spirits can come to me at night because I have my familiar there, like quite literally protecting me all night long, which is like super cute. Um so yeah, I think it depends on like what your openness level is to things like that. I am not open to things coming to me at night. Like Jesus
Yeah,
knows
no,
that.
me neither.
Like the minute like I open
I'm
my
very afraid of the
eyes,
dark,
I'm
so
very afraid. I open my eyes at 3 a.m. and I start singing Jesus loves me. This I know for the Bible tells me so. So like
yeah.
that's my basically like whole thing with like nighttime things. No, no, thank you. Not for
No, that's
Lena.
like it for me. Like I finally got over my fear of the dark, and this is a very bad way to get over your fear of the dark. I don't recommend this, but eventually I was like, if something comes out of the dark and gets me, and it kills me, all it's done is release me from my flesh prison.
Oh
Now I
my
have full reign to
God.
go after it. So I was like, that's the only thing keeping me like not totally scared because I'm just like, go ahead, see, let's light this candle. Like,
No. No, 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 no. Your girl, I'm so fucking scared. Like, I don't know what happened, but after, like, before I had Scott, I used to love, like, murder mysteries and, like, CSI and, like, scary things. But after I had him, all the anxiety of the world came into my vessel, and I just cannot anymore. So I don't mess with the scary spirits at night. I do wake up almost every day at 3 a.m. to, like, hang out with the ghosties, but, like, I don't do it. I don't do the
I always wake up at like 4 and I'm just like, all I care about is that I have enough time to go back to sleep before my alarm goes off. That's it. But no, like, I just remember, like, I always imagine like a gold bubble around myself, and then
Mm-hmm.
I expand it out, and I'm just like, bye, like, get out. So that's how I deal with it. But next time I was like, shit, I should have asked it who it was and what it wanted. Oh no, because I was just sitting there and I was like, hey, fuck off.
Your video on crucifixion was pretty offensive from a Christian perspective. Okay. I'm assuming that
um,
was Sarah
oh,
if I
mine?
understand it correctly.
Yeah, actually that is why I got this book, because Father Kyle recommended I get this. because he said that what I was saying there is very, very similar to what Moltmann is saying here. And I don't see, I mean, listen, the reason I understand why it was offensive because people believe that God is so perfect he'll never have anything to apologize for. Sure, but what if what he's apologizing for isn't something he actively did? What if he's
Hmm.
apologizing just for the state of the world? Like, I'm a
Yeah.
writer, you know, and I write these situations to characters who deserve nothing but goodness of no fault of their own, and I'm just like, sorry, bud. Like, that's rough, but it's gotta happen. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of what it is, where God's like, world's rough, sorry about that, but you're gonna be okay in the end. Like, you know? And so I don't really care if it's offensive from a Christian perspective. Wait, what? I wasn't saying Jesus was unjust. That's not what I was saying. No, no, no. I was saying that God recognized that this world sucks, and he acknowledged that there were outstanding debts of justice to be paid, and he paid for them,
Hmm.
plain and simple. Like, you know,
He made the payment. That's that, like, sort of thing. I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
no,
And
people
you know
got so
what?
pissed
Like,
off because they were like, God is perfect, and it's like you can believe that and
yeah,
still believe that
God,
God like is also empathetic.
God, like literally, like God can be perfect and like also like be like, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. I'm so sorry that you're having to experience this for your soul's growth. I'm so sorry that
Mm,
this is affecting you this way. Like, one thing throughout my life I've always really prided myself on was not being like a why God person. Like, why God did that happen to me? Why did this happen? And you know what?
yeah.
2022 changed me into a why God person. I'm like, why the fuck did that happen, God? Why? What happened there? Why was that? Like, sort of thing.
Mm,
And, what I've learned from being a why God person is that he won't necessarily give you an answer as to why that happened, but he will get down with you on that level of being like, I am so sorry that you do not understand why this is happening to you right now. I'm sorry that I can't give you an explanation for what's going on right now, but I'm just letting you know that like it's for your highest good, like, sort of thing. And he can
exactly.
apologize for the things that like happens to us. And like he, when we cry, in a way God cries, sort of thing. Like when we're feeling like this really deep sadness and hurt, he feels that as well, because ultimately like we are just creation experiencing itself. So like he can be really empathetic to what's going on with us, but also like understand that certain things, like certain hardships, are meant to expand our consciousness and help us be better people
Right.
ultimately.
Yeah. Hello, Abella and Bella. But yeah, no. So he was saying you're applying Psalm 82 to Jesus. What I'm saying is this, and in The God of Old by James L. Kugel, he explicitly says he's like there are so many verses where God is the God of the just, and he brings justice and justice, justice, justice. But then there are so many moments in history where justice has not been served,
Yeah.
and a lot of people say, well, you don't know how justice is served X, Y, and Z. But no, to the people still on Earth, it looks like there has been no justice.
Yeah.
And there are things that are no fault of anyone's, famines and floods and all these things that cause harm, right? And so if God is going to make this rule for other gods and say, hey, and he recognizes their authority in Psalm 82. He says, all of you have your responsibilities, you are gods, basically, but because you let injustice happen, you are going to die like men. And then here's Jesus, who in Christian framework is God incarnate. There he is dying like a man. To me, that says God recognizes and is playing by his own rules and says, I have outstanding debts that need to be paid.
Yeah.
Like,
That actually, wow. Oh my gosh, I'm choking. I'm choking on another almond, because that makes a lot of sense.
so, so I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense that we have a God that wants to get on, like, down and dirty with us and
Yeah.
say, like, we're in it together. Like, this is fucked for everybody. But how do
No,
you view
like
the
he.
Infernal overall? Sorry.
And
Sorry, go
then
ahead.
all I was going to say is that he just really tries to empathize with us, and I feel like part of that was experiencing a man's death, even if it was like a really
Yeah.
tragic and horrible way to die, like, because ultimately like the way Jesus died was absolutely like, oh my gosh, that was disgusting. Like, just like
Terrible.
learning about
Yeah.
like the science behind it, because there are like you can read like papers of like the actual like medical process that Jesus went through when he was being crucified, and it's absolutely disgusting. But I feel like, if we are going from it from like God being source experiencing itself, like he was experiencing a really tragic thing through Jesus so that he could learn how to not have this happen in the future.
Yeah. And I think Because again, I do view the traditional framework of Jesus being like God incarnate, and because of that, I think it's beautiful that we have a
My
God that is quite literally
baby.
like he is so wide, vast, and great, and yet to empathize with us better, he tried to come live a human life. Like
Yeah,
that's wild. Like that he was
that is
willing to be
really
like, I
wild.
will deal with all this shit for you and see what is wrong here and try and fix it with you. I think that's crazy. But also, how do you view the Infernal Divine overall? I love them. I think they're great.
They're interesting.
I think that like they have their purpose and their place and that they serve that very faithfully. And like their purpose and place is to help people get the fucking chutzpah to live their life authentically. Like with God, God reminds me to tone it down, to chill
Hmm.
out, to give people a second and like not immediately go for the throat. Whereas there are a lot of people who grew up being told that they are not good enough and they are unworthy, that they are lesser, and the infernal divine helps them get out of that and say, like, no, no, fuck all that. You have value and you
Yeah.
deserve to let people know it.
I mean, even if I feel like even if you don't grow up in that way, like I definitely grew up with like parents who are like, you can do anything you want to do, Lena. Like I had like those kind of like really like supportive parents, but I still have this like innate fear that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not good enough kind of thing. And like I'm a, like almost like I basically I struggle a lot with like imposter syndrome and like feeling like a fraud.
Hmm.
And this is where like obviously Jesus helps me a lot through this because like Jesus and very much particularly like Saint Paul, they're really here for that kind of thing. But Lilith, who would be considered divine infernal, she is very much like, hey, like like you may have this particular view of yourself, but at the end of the day, like other people do not have this standard of you, and you need to stop holding yourself to this impossible standard because it's not working for you. And she kind of like tries to teach me how to have like confidence in what I'm doing versus what I can be doing, if that makes sense. So it's very much
Hmm.
reflective off of what you were saying, that they really try to help you stand in your power. And I think that's a big thing, especially like with Lilith, who is a feminine divine infernal, like reclaiming your power, taking back what other people stole from you. That's a big theme with her. And
Hmm.
I feel like that's a big theme with a lot of divine infernal, is just really like reclaiming what's yours. And as much as God is about that, I feel like he's more passive, and I don't experience as much of that as I do with like divine infernal entities, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Real quick, just for 12, it's the Crucified God by Jürgen Moltmann. This one is the 40-year anniversary edition. It was originally written in like 1978, I think. But this guy actually was a German soldier in World War II, and he wrote this after years of reflecting on all of the harm that his country did in World War II, like all of the things that happened there. He looked at this and he talked to Jewish people to write this and stuff, and
Yeah.
he's like, you cannot call yourself Christianity as a religion unless you understand the fight for true justice that is the crucified God. So like
Yeah.
it's powerful stuff. But all that aside, what was I thinking of? Oh yeah, I think what people kind of forget is that there is something for everybody's comfort level with gods, infernal angels, everybody. If there is something that a god can do, there's also a saint or an angel that parallels the same ideas. So like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really feel comfortable working with other gods, but this you don't have to be. You don't
No.
have to do like literally anything. And like God is great and God can do so much, but the idea that you only talk to God is kind of like you can ask him for things and he'll send you quite literally a specific angel, a specific saint, because they specialize in the things you're asking about. That's why he has this giant, like, team of beings.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And like I feel like we have, and this was something I started to learn more about because of my kid Dexter. He's, him and I started to read Percy Jackson. And he was like, whoa, there's all these gods for different things. There's Poseidon, he's the god of the sea. There's Dionysus, he's the god of wine. Like, why is there not this in Christianity? So we started to dive into like saints and like divine infernal and, like more different characters throughout the Bible and like what they might like um, rule over themselves. And it's sometimes more effective. Not that praying to God isn't going to be effective, but sometimes it's more effective to like go to somebody who like rules over that specific thing. Like if you're trying to sell your house, like Saint Anthony, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
sometimes it's just easier to go to him and be like, "Yo, dude,
right.
like I got."
Okay.
If you're dealing with chronic pain, Saint Paul might be somebody who's easier to work with for you than like Jesus or God because he understood it. Read 2 Corinthians 12. Like he had a thorn in his side that he asked 3 times to be taken away, and God says to him, "No, like my grace is sufficient enough. You don't need that to be taken away." And it's a really powerful
Mm.
thing to look at, and this is why these things are needed within the faith. And as much as God can definitely be your be all and end all, sometimes it's just wiser to have outside influence, not outside influence, but influence from other people within the faith and other entities that have experienced like the hardships that you may be experiencing.
But again, it's also just like God made all of these angels, and the saints are all ones who were taken by God to do certain things. So it's like if you ask God for healing and he sends Raphael to help you, that's still God helping you.
Yeah,
You know?
that's
So people don't
literally
realize that.
they don't realize that either. Like that's basically how like my relationship with Loki came to be. Is like my life got really chaotic, and I'm like being like, God, why the heck is this happening? Like, what do I do? Like, I don't like this anymore. And he's like, Lina,
And Loki's
talk to
like, ew.
Loki. He's like, just talk to him. Just talk to him. Just have a conversation with him. So I sat down and I said, Loki, like, let's have a conversation. And after that conversation, I feel like obviously my life didn't get less chaotic. If anything, it probably got like a little bit more chaotic, but like chaotic with structure, if that makes sense. Like it's
Mm.
more predictable chaosity, if that's even
Kind of
like
like
a
containing
thing.
it,
Yeah, it
mastering
feels
it.
like more like contained, and it just feels like more not like it's less overwhelming or anything, but it just feels like when I'm going to deal with these things, even if I'm having a bad day, I have a better team behind me to deal with these
Mm.
chaotic things. And I feel like that was the gift that God was giving me by like saying like, hey Lena, like you have the permission to talk to other deities. Because I used to be one of those people that's like, I'm never gonna talk to a deity outside of the Abrahamic pantheon. And no, I definitely that was not my plan, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it was the same thing. But then, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was on Witch Talk and I was looking at everyone else with like all these other gods, and I was like, I was just so like the curiosity was just like burning me, and I was like, God,
Yeah.
I gotta know. And he's like, fuck around, find out. So I was like, I'm gonna fuck around so hard.
Sometimes that's what you
But
gotta do.
you gotta see, and now it's like I see them and I respect them greatly, and it's I don't need to work with them. I really don't have any interest in it, but like I respect the hell out of them because they have their place in the world. They have their roles
Hmm.
and responsibilities.
Yeah.
But
What's your
hello,
favorite?
Kathleen.
What's your favorite books on theology, religion, and the cult? The
Hmm.
occult, not the cult.
Um, on the cult TM. But
The
actually, I
on the
gave it to my
cult.
friend. I gave it to my friend to read, but my favorite so far has been like Misquoting Jesus by Bart D.
Hmm.
Ehrman because
I was
like
gonna say
everyone's like
that.
the Bible is perfect, and it's like my whole left testicle. It is not. Like it really isn't. Like it's no. Like it's been edited. Like it's not. It's been messed with, and that book
Yeah.
goes like right through it. It's like yeah. And when you realize that, you're kind of freed. Like when you stop believing the Bible is anything other than what it is, which is like a book compiled by man, you are freed from so much
Yes.
expectation and confusion.
I feel like once you take that infallibility of like being like the Bible isn't this actually like infallible book and it is written by man. And there is a part, and I'm so sorry, forgive me, like this is the one verse obviously I don't have memorized in the thousands of verses that I have memorized. But there is a part where Paul, he literally says, like, this is my opinion, not the one of God's. This is what I think is best. And so, like, if Paul is admitting it there, right? He's the one person which like we all shit on Paul, but he admitted that he put his opinion in the Bible. So like let's give
It
him
was
credit for
like,
that.
I'm not qualified. Yeah.
He's yeah, like
So,
the only one to do
oh,
that.
my
But
hair
like
is
don't
not
you
all
think
of this.
other it's a mood.
My
Don't you think others have done
10
that
a.m.
too?
No,
10
yeah, this is
p.m.
what, well,
10 p.m. I drank
listen.
already.
No, literally, but also, oh, Steve, why are you stressed? What's going on? But also like Ezekiel. Okay, when I read like I made that video about like sometimes it's so fucking hard to stay believing because like here comes Ezekiel being like, and there are false prophets that say that like God said this when he didn't, and like I'm just like you could use that one line of the Bible to validate
Literally.
the entire Bible and then some. So I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I have no patience anymore for people being like, but the Bible said. I'm like, I don't care. You know what I care about? I care about what
No.
God said. All the Bible is go what God said written down. So like whatever, I'll go ask him myself at this point. It's less hassle.
No, that's exactly a fact, and that's why like misquoting Jesus is a really great book because it teaches you a lot about that and how like things really
Yeah.
got like fucked up. Aside from that, I really like the book Jesus Through Pagan Eyes. That one is, I feel like, better for people who are really like deconstructing and want to have like kind of solidified Christian witchery faith, if that makes sense, and like almost like
Mm.
looking for quote unquote permission to have it. I feel like Jesus Through Pagan Eyes is a really great thing for that. Um, and then my personal favorite book, it's not a Christian book. It's not like a Jesus witchy book. I really love Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. I read that book during a really, really dark time in my life, and it helped me so much to like grapple like what happens to us after we pass kind of thing. And I highly recommend that. And it also feels very biblically validating because if you're somebody who comes from an evangelical background of like reading the Bible up and down and memorizing it like crazily, you will find the biblical themes in this book and be like, holy shit, it all connects. So it's like really cool. It's a cool one.
Absolutely, yeah. Steve is saying he wants to be a Christian but doesn't know how. Backsliding. Here's a like hard truth for you. There's no way to be a Christian. You just
Yeah.
be. Like you literally just exist, and you throw all your problems at God, and God says, chill." And that's pretty much like the cycle of being a Christian. Like everyone's method is different. Any books by Matthew Fox can really help folks see a different version of Christian thought. Absolutely, I haven't read that, but I do know that like honestly, here's the okay books in general. What are your favorite books? Any that are not the Bible, okay? Because people are like, all you need is the Bible, and it's like, dipshit, dipshit. Are you a historian, a linguist, an
Yeah,
anthropologist, a
right?
sociologist? But no, so you cannot just read the Bible and like magically understand it from
No.
the get go.
I mean,
But the Holy Spirit,
even if you just read the Bible, you have to say to yourself, like, hey, like, this is written in a very different time than when we live today. And, like, understand that certain things were written for certain groups of people. Like, every time somebody's like, what do you think about Leviticus? I don't fucking think of Leviticus. I'm not an Israelite. Why do I care? That was written
yeah,
for ancient Semitic Israelites. Why do I care about those verses? I don't.
no,
They're not
exactly,
applicable to me. I'm sorry.
and they'll ask you about Leviticus while meanwhile they're eating like that Red Lobster's like
They're
infinite
like
shrimp deal. I'm
shrimp.
like, shut,
They're
shut,
eating shrimp. They're going to fucking
like
Starbucks and getting their pink drinks that have literally crushed bugs in it, which is not kosher. Like, come on. It's not. Sorry.
it's the whole thing is silly. And that's why it's like the Bible is great and the Bible is really good. Of course, you like right like we see on Witch Talk a lot of people get in trouble because they start trying to work with gods they know nothing about, and I mean nothing about, right? So
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna get your shit kicked in if you're trying to talk to Heck like Ikati and you don't know anything about her origins, how to approach her.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your shit rocked. Like same thing with God. If you don't know the stories of Jesus and God, like it's going to be harder to connect with him. It's also going to be harder to see what signals he sends you. So like I didn't know why God wanted mint on his altar so bad. Then I read Matthew 23:23 where Jesus is talking about the mint and anise and cumin, then I was like, "Oh. Oh shit."
That's a whole other thing. I actually have a whole book on that. It's called Essential Oils in the Bible. I'm pretty sure it was written by an MLMer. But you know what? It's a great book and it tells you all of the verses where all these like ridiculous herbs where were mentioned in the Bible. And I find that to be so powerful too, is like seeing how they use these mundane objects to create faith. That is so fucking witchy. Like it is so
Yeah.
witchy and it validates what we're doing. And I just find it like really important to learn about. I would
Yeah,
like
and it's like I mean back in the day, right? Like before germ theory existed,
good.
people thought that like illness was caused sometimes by unclean things. It's like kosher and halal and all these things were so big because you can like obviously avoid pig meat in a hot climate where meat goes bad easily because pig is a dirty animal. Like, makes sense. But like,
Hmm.
then the rest was they thought was caused by evil spirits. So you had to know something about getting rid of evil spirits, like to get
No,
rid of
that's
the
it.
illness.
And like a lot of the times that they were quote unquote getting rid of evil spirits, they were doing like holistic medicines that actually like
Mm.
nowadays that we have like some sort of research. Obviously, you need modern medicine. Please, nobody take my words out of context or
Yeah, no,
anything.
don't
Like, don't like, like I would not be alive without
issue
prednisone.
basic medicine
So
for plants. Yeah,
mm, yeah, there's definitely a time and a place, but like you go and you look at the contexts that ancient people use these herbs, and then you look at the scientific evidence and research that we have on them, and you see how they correlate, and it's like really, really, really interesting to think about.
mm. And especially, actually, for anyone who's interested in it, Jewitches is a great account to follow, talking a lot
I
about
love
Jewish
Jew
magic.
witches.
I love her stuff. And garlic is permanent, and we were already talking about how garlic is very baneful, towards evil. So, like, makes sense folklorically, physically, that garlic plays a big role. And
I mean,
also,
like
yeah,
even like
again,
vampire culture. That's how you get rid of fucking vampires is garlic.
yeah, it's garlic. And like Greek too, you hang garlic above the doorway, that keeps evil out. So garlic is very,
Oh
like,
yeah,
in multiple
Italians do
cultures.
that too.
Yeah, so in
Yeah, we
multiple
have like
cultures,
garlic all over
garlic
the
is like
place.
the ultimate, yeah, garlic, but also, I mean, yeah, a quick note, like, I think of herbalism as preventative medicine, and that's why, like, kitchen magic to me is preventative medicine,
Hmm.
because, a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of, like, if you use a lot of herbs, spices, fruits, and vegetables in your cooking, you're gonna get all of those nutrients that you need to, like, stay healthy in the first place. I feel like a lot of food we eat these days is very stripped of, flavor and also nutrients, so, like, people get sick and feel like ass a lot easier because they aren't giving themselves the actual nutrition they need.
Yeah, that's literally just
Herbal
like
medicine helps with
science.
that.
Like you are
Yeah,
what you eat kind of thing. Like if you're
exactly.
eating like chocolate all day long, you're gonna be chocolate. And that's like not
Yeah,
necessarily a great thing to be. Because like chocolate's very sugary and fatty, and like if you're eating too much sugar, you're
yeah,
sleeping all the time and you're getting a lot of acne. So
yeah.
you know,
And it's
that's
like,
that's
so you
why.
can like, and you can eat, and even then you can eat like the dark chocolate and get more benefits of the actual cacao bean. But like, if you're eating like angel food cake all the time, it's not awesome. And also like rice versus buckwheat, like rice is good, but not a lot of nutritional value. Buckwheat is like rice, but has like all of these minerals in it that help.
Yeah. Jesus loves you all. Jesus loves
Thanks.
me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Yes, Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me so. Whenever somebody comments that on my videos, that's really what I think of, and I sing that my entire time.
I, for me, I really, I like, I feel bad, but it's like the phrase Jesus loves you has been weaponized to the point that every time I see it, I'm just like instantly uncomfortable. I'm just like,
Yeah, that's why I sing the song, because it makes it
because
ridiculous instead of like, okay, like you
it's
realize
like, because like
how.
Jesus loves you is always either followed or precluded by some like whack ass shit,
Oh,
and so you're
yeah.
always just like,
What does Jesus love me
thanks.
for? Does he love me if it's conditional? Listen, if he loves me, if it's only conditional, then that's not the kind of relationship I want to be in. So, you
Like,
know, I'm an
I
unconditional
I
love kind of girly. I'm a Taurus. So that's
I
what
just
we
remember when
need.
I was doing my interview with Jesus. Jesus had the most like it was like up and down, honestly. It was like golden retriever energy 1 second, and then the next second it was very much like
For real. That's how he is.
like
He's very much like the ridiculous person. It's like, all right, let's go out. Let's go out. We're going to be like the coolest versions of ourselves. We're going to be super
yeah,
extroverted. We're
he's
going to
like
talk to everybody. And then he's
I
also like,
love him. Yeah, he's oh my god. He was like so hyped for the first part, and then I started asking him questions, and he was like he had the most chain smoking energy. He was like, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna smoke because I can't stand any of this.
he's
Like
like,
I
my
was just
favorite
like
drink is red wine because I can't deal with all of your people's sins.
literally it's like I kind of feel bad because I talk to God so directly and like I don't often talk to I always like say Jesus, God, and Holy Spirit. Like when I talk to God, I'm always including all three of them.
Hmm.
but talking to God. But I always feel bad because I never really like talked to Jesus specifically, but every time I do, he's just like so upbeat. And I'm just like, my boy. Like,
He's like always like just bopping and whatnot.
yeah,
I
he's always
love
like,
talking to him.
hello. It's
Jesus is
he's so
fun.
good.
He's so fun. He can get down with like almost anything. Like he'll be like normally like Doja Cat for me. Doja Cat is my like Lilith artist, but every once in a while, Jesus and I'll just like get turned together and we're like, like have fun. Like there's like Jesus is so much. You can have a lot of fun with him if you let him be fun, like kind of thing. He
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be serious. He's very much Big Brother energy and not in like the creepy like I'm watching you, Big Brother, like in like
I
the
hate when these people they're like, give your life to Jesus. I'm just imagining Jesus like, I don't really need that, but thanks. Oh, you know what though? You know what else I was thinking of? The more I talk to the Infernal, the more I realize how much Jesus himself is an adversary.
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh,
he
whoa.
really is though. He really, but like think about it. He was the political adversary of the time. That's ultimately why he was crucified. Was because he
Mm,
was a political adversary to the Pharisees. And like doesn't that teach you something about Jesus and his character? Like aren't we supposed to be like little rebels kind of thing? Why do I have so
yeah,
much
like
time?
when Jesus is like literally when you see something, say something, like incarnate. Like he's literally just like, shit's fucked.
Yeah. He's very much call it
Jesus
out,
sitting there
very
with all
much
his life,
like
like,
he's like trying he's like just help people. Help
give your
yourself.
life to Jesus, and
Help
he's like,
people.
stop, I don't need another.
He doesn't see, but like I understand the whole sense of like wanting to like live the way that Jesus wants you to live. Like I very much have like quote unquote given my life to Christ in the sense that like if Jesus says jump, I'll say how high kind of thing. But like
Mm,
at the end of the day, my life is my own and it's my choice that I want to follow Jesus kind of thing.
right.
And you can't take that credit out of yourself. And I think that's where like Christianity really takes the fall. And I understand we're not supposed to be egotistical, but at some point you have to give yourself like credit for like what you're doing in your life. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your own self confidence and mental health. You know?
No, absolutely. And this is like why I'm sitting there looking at these people. I'm like, a lot of these people, if you tell them there is no heaven or hell and like there nothing like that's gonna happen, are you still Christian? A lot of these people are gonna say no because they're not rocking with God for God. They are quite like they read the story of Job and then just like tossed it over out the door. Like you're
They
not
don't
supposed to be
know.
with God for whatever promises of heaven or to avoid hell. You choose to be with Him because you want to be with Him. If you don't want to be with Him, God doesn't really care to be with you. Like, that's what I learned. If you
No,
don't
that's
want
really
anything to
it.
do with God, God's like, okay, bye. Like,
No, he's not trying. He's not hounding nobody. Um,
yeah.
Okay, so here's a question. What are your tips for beginner Christian witches or a good starting point? Here's my biggest tip for beginner Christian witches. Go listen to the Jesus Witch podcast. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere. That's got all the information you need. So just go there.
Yes. Plug it.
Plug in. That's my tip.
I mean, hey, right? Information's information.
Listen, I've spent so
So
much
fuck it.
time
Yeah.
making that content. I put so much time into it. I'm not going to spit it back out here. Go listen to the podcast.
I feel the same way with my Patreon. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes I want to just start talking, then I'm like, wait, that's like a
I wrote
15-minute topic. But start if I have started. Oh well, then all right. Then you've
then
already
just you, you're
step one.
there. Yeah.
Uh,
Here,
step two. I
you give
really
your
think
tips. I'll be right back. Give your tips.
okay. My honestly like before you do a damn thing is figure out a way to connect with God, like whether that's with like tarot cards or bibliomancy or meditation. Find a way that you can comfortably and reliably like get in touch with God to see what He's trying to tell you. Because with anything that you do, um, God God knows like how to help. You know, God knows what will help you the best. So with that in mind, find that method of communication first, and then from there, look at yourself. What do you like? What are you good at? What do you have time for? Because this is going to dictate what like branch you spec into basically. So like for me, right? I work a lot. I don't have a lot of free time and I like to cook. So instead of doing giant rituals and then also cooking for myself, I just kind of combine the two. And I do kitchen witchcraft, which really you just got to know your herbs and your spices and your fruits and vegetables, and then you can kind of do all kinds of stuff for like two for one dinner and a spell all in one go. It's awesome. The New King James Version. Truthfully, there's no Bible that's going to be like verifying witchcraft. Like, there's no Bible that's going to be like, yeah, witches, because obviously, you have to read between the lines and you have to get outside
Hmm.
scholarship. So, like, basically, any Bible, yeah, sure, it's fine. Take it all with a grain of salt, and if something doesn't feel right to you, investigate it.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, like, right as of now, there's not a witchy. One of my main goals in life is to make a witchy translation of the Bible. That's going to be like a long time, though.
God, please, please.
Long
Um,
time.
but reincarnation. Um,
I
yeah,
love
no, reincarnation
reincarnation.
I think is legit. I think that one like 80 years isn't enough for a soul to learn everything it needs to learn. I don't think
Um,
that's realistic. There's so many different ways of experiencing life that like me being a white woman in Rhode Island, that's not the only experience in the world. I feel like you have to get a lot of different experiences before you can say your soul is fully evolved.
yeah, I agree with that. There's also like biblical, we've talked about this before today. We were talking about biblical evidence of reincarnation. I have a whole podcast episode on that where we talk about like Elijah becoming John the Baptist. But I agree with you that like in this lifetime, you just ultimately can't learn everything that you're meant to
Hmm.
learn, sort of thing, because we're all looking through one specific lens. So, you need to have more experience, kind of thing. Oh my
And
gosh.
actually, you know what, Lena, how do you view the infernal divine? Because I know I've talked about my experiences with it, but like, how do you view like demons and Lucifer? And like, I know you talked about Lucifer as the Roman god and stuff, but like, what about like
Yeah.
King Belial and Balaam and all of them?
To be very honest, I haven't really thought of them so much, like, because I very much work with like the light kind of thing. My biggest like divine infernal experience would be Lilith. And then I also do work with Lucifer, but I work with him more in his Roman pagan god
Mm-hmm.
sense more than anything. But I just really don't think that you could have the light without the darkness kind of thing. So like as much as there's like a ruler of this like upper world over here of the earth, there has to be like some sort of infernal or quote unquote negative equivalent to that or dark equivalent to that. Um so I kind of see it in that way as much as like we have like the heavenly realm, we also have like the divine infernal realm. I think I do view something a little bit different than you, where I do think that some humans don't have souls that come from the light. So like you and I think we have like, souls that come from, like the heavenly realm. But then I also do think that there are people that have souls that come from like the underworld realm. And those are the people who are able to commit these huge atrocities that we see happen in the earth. And I think that as much as like God creates, the infernal will also create kind of thing. So it's kind of like equal powers, but different, if that makes sense.
I see that. Which is now making me think like, oh no, like we were talking about like demons being somewhat like fairies and lower
Yeah.
tier angels, and that like demons are just kind of like that's why all the demon like kings, like the infernal kings, have to kind of like command them and be like stop. Um, and I'm wondering, I'm like, what if these like infernal souls are just like they're out here like I don't know, actually just those small demons, and the infernal kings are running after them like fuck, god damn it, like.
Yeah. That might be part of it. Like, or I know that people don't like to think about this, but there is, in this world, there is a place for evil. And sometimes we need to either experience evil or witness evil in order to like expand our own consciousness and our own version of what's right and wrong, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I do think like these more negative entities have a purpose, even if we as humans can't understand it. I think that kind of like falls
Yeah.
under the whole Bible verse of your thoughts are higher than mine kind of thing. And sometimes like our human brains can't wrap around something because it's just not meant for us to be logical with.
No, yeah, I feel that. And thank you, Bella, for the owl. And thank you everyone for all the gifts you've been sending through this whole time. I've been trying
The
not to
owl
like
was so cute.
I know
Oh
I was
my
looking at it,
gosh.
I was like, I can't interrupt this conversation, but damn, that was cool. But as the demon like, hey, I mean, Abella, if you got time, you want to hop on right now? You want to give your 2 cents
Yeah.
on Infernal? I mean, if you are up for that. If not, totally fine. We should definitely do that sometime. I would love to just talk Infernal stuff with you as well. We can invite Aziel and everyone else too. Um, but I think I remember one time I was talking to somebody that like they saw demons that were trying to convince them that like they would get extra power if they just like dragged down with them, and then they actually saw Lucifer, who was literally like a ball of light, like a big
Yeah.
light thing. And so that's when this friend of mine was like, so there are like icky spirits out there, and then there are beings that are not that, like that get a bad rap because there are infernal beings that like are infernal but are higher than that. And then there are those tiny little muck spirits that just live to cause trouble. I mean, we can't pretend that there are spirits that do not exist that just fuck shit up.
Yeah,
like,
no. There
like
has
it's
to be. I mean, like, look at our world and tell me that there's not something trying to fuck it up. Like, kind of thing.
like
You know?
sometimes things are just assholes.
And
That's just
that's
the way. Like it's okay. It's because
I think
you
it's
just
about,
figure out how to get rid of them.
yeah, not even just figuring out how to get rid of them, but learning how to like rise above them and be the positivity that like draws out the light, the dark. I don't know, but I also don't want to be
Yeah.
like the toxic positivity person because I don't want people to be like, oh my god, Lena's like so happy. No, trust me, Lena
No.
deals with shit. Lena just chooses to focus on the more lighter aspects of life. Does that mean that the darker aspects don't exist? Does that mean like the depression and anxiety doesn't exist? No. Does that mean that
Yeah.
I'm ignoring it? No, that doesn't mean that either. It just means that instead of like dwelling on that, I'm choosing to talk about a different thing and put my energy into a different thing, even if it's not
Yeah.
where I 100% exist all the time. my
Exactly. And like I
husband, my
think
husband could tell you today. He's like, your girl was waterworks
oh
all day,
yeah.
literally listening to my imposter syndrome playlist all day long. Like, it's me.
God, for
Hi,
me
I'm the
it's
problem. It's me.
no, for me it's like the clock is my biggest enemy. But yes, Apella, looking for I'll look for that DM. Absolutely, I would love to. But yeah, no, for me it's like the clock. I'm always like instantly enraged when like I don't have as much time as I thought I did, or the time
Yeah.
slips away from me. I'm like, God damn it! Like even just today, I was gonna do like all this stuff, and I got like that much done. Now I'm like, bitch. But I think it's like there's nothing wrong with like the fact that demons of the smaller plane exist. Like these demons that try and poke at your depression or poke at like your problems. There's nothing wrong with them existing. They exist to like again like the adversary to test you.
Yeah.
You can't grow strong in a bubble,
No,
right?
you
Like with nothing
can't.
but if something with sparkles and rainbows, like that's not growth inducing.
No, it's really like not for nothing. Like, I mean, this is gonna sound like really woo woo, but when I was growing up for like over like 15 years, around 15 years, I think, I was bullied like really, really, really badly. Like people following me home, like throwing shit at me, like literally physically assaulting me. Like I was badly bullied. But today I sit here and I think about the people who bullied me, and I think about like how they must have been hurting themselves, how they must have been struggling with things like on their own if they thought that that was
Hmm.
appropriate to do something like that to another person. And I sit here and I say to myself, like, I could hate them, I could feed more negativity into that, I could put like more of that same energy that they threw at me at them, or I could forgive them and understand that we were all kids.
Hmm.
They were dealing with shit themselves. They didn't know how to express it in a healthy manner. This was before like, the whole big anti-bullying thing. Um, and so I choose to do that. And is that like devalidating anything that I went through? No, it's just saying like I'm letting this positivity, I'm letting the forgiveness win, because if I don't, then like what is my soul learning from that?
Yeah.
What am I gaining from that if I don't forgive them? What am I gaining from holding a grudge like that forever? Because ultimately
Right.
forgiveness is not for the other person. Like, the other person never needs to know that you forgive them. It's really for you, so you can let go of that burden and you can feel
Yeah.
more free and grown through that thing. through that situation.
I'm just sitting here thinking like, I was the bully eater in high school. As soon as I heard someone was getting bullied, I got in their face and I was like, hey, fuck yourself. And like, I don't know. I would dress like I would wear like, if anyone's seen any of my more alternative outfits, I had like spiky bras and leather jackets and big, like up to my thigh,
Oh
like
my God.
giant
Yeah.
boots. And I would roll through the hallways like, hey, fuck your life. And like, all the bullies would be like, I was like, I heard that you have a problem with my X, Y, and Z friend. And they'd be like, and I'd be like, want to talk about it? And they'd be like, no.
No, no. That's what happens. They really are, they're like that. They're just like, you know? Um, so you're a non-Christian witch and you work mainly with what? Yeah, sure, that's cool, Kara. But here's the question: can non-Christian witches work with Christian-based deities? Yes, yes. I think that
Um,
Jesus is
yeah.
for every. So
Mm.
here's the thing: I don't.
I'm just like, mm.
If you're gonna here, so wait, I'm gonna revise my answer. God specifically, the Abrahamic
I was
God
about to say.
requires a very, very, very specific kind of covenant to work with him. Okay. Outside of him, everybody else is fair game, but that requires a very specific, you are not going to put any other gods before him. And like, it's like, I guess you could not have a lifelong contract with the Abrahamic God, but I really don't see how that could work out. Like he's very much like
Yeah.
beginning to end kind of thing.
Yeah. That's why it's like Jesus, absolutely. Jesus and the angels and the saints will hang out with everyone
Heck
and
yeah.
everything. Like they love it. But
Even like the
God is
Holy
very much like,
Spirit.
yeah,
I'll even go as far to say like Ashura, the divine feminine, she'll even be more like, like whatever, but I very much feel this like rigidity and loyalty that the Abrahamic God wants. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that's something he asks specifically from his followers. And that doesn't
yeah,
mean you can't follow Ashra, you can't follow Jesus, you can't follow Lilith, you can't follow any of the saints or the angels, but it's very much like the Abrahamic God himself wants loyalty. And that doesn't mean like you can't work with other gods outside of him. He's just asking to be put first and foremost. So if you're like a
yeah,
true, quote unquote, a true Christian witch kind of thing, which I hate that phrase, please like don't twist it into weird things. But if you're really going to be working with the Abrahamic God, you need to have that kind of covenant with him.
yeah. And this goes back to our conversation about like work with and worship. Like God wants your worship. He wants your devotion. He wants all that you have possibly to give and then some.
Facts.
Like he's not I don't want to
He's
say he's not for the
relentless.
weak, but he's not for those who want to stay weak. You know what I mean? Like he's for those
Yeah.
who want to really fucking go and go hard.
Yeah, no, he's very much like the personal development god. Like as much as he's the storm god, he's really like the personal development god. If you
Mm.
want to stay who you are, he's not the god to work with. And I'm not saying that like in a way to deter people from working with the Abrahamic God. It's very much like he's a god of transformation. Like in Ezekiel, he takes, a heart of stone and turns it into a heart of flesh. That's a huge transformation. So if you're not looking to have your heart of stone be turned to a heart of flesh, like just warning, don't work with Abraham and God, because that's what he
Yeah.
wants, that's what he expects, and that's what he will put into your life, situations that force you to change, force you to expand, and force you to be more empathetic and more rooted in human nature, ultimately. Genuine question: do you believe the four covenants of the Old Testament apply to Christians?
Uh
No, because it's the Old
no.
Testament. Because it's
Yeah,
the
like for me it's like
honestly, because
Jesus.
it's the Old Testament.
Yeah, Jesus is that new covenant, and he's like the only thing you got to pay attention to is love everyone and the Ten
Oh
Commandments.
yeah,
Outside of that, like, I don't know, tits out for Jesus, like, have a good time. So it's just
yeah.
like, but, also, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. I think this is also, I saw someone say that, like, they were, it was so funny, they were rating, like, deities I like to read the least for clients, and, like, I was, like, rocking, I was like, okay, yeah. And then here comes God, like, God shows up, and they said that like it's because he barely answers, and if he does, he sends an angel. And it's like, yeah, if you don't rock
That's
with
how he
God,
is.
he really can't be bothered. Like he really cannot be bothered.
No, he can't answer your questions unless you like get him, kind of thing. Um,
Mm.
and I mean, like that's not like a bad thing. And I do believe So like let's say like you or I really needed a tarot reading and we went to somebody who was not a Christian specific witch, he would come through with the message that he needs to come through, but ultimately
Yeah.
he's going to want to like one-on-one communicate with people who get him. Because so here this might be humanizing God a little bit too much, but like ultimately his name has been used in a lot of negative things. And like, he, as much as he like knows people's characters of their heart, like if you're getting a reading with somebody who's not super open to the Abrahamic pantheon and they have their own religious trauma against him, how are they going to connect with him the proper way, kind of
Yeah, it's gonna
thing?
be like pulling teeth.
Yeah, so that's like, and it's not like I don't think he wants to connect with them, it's just he knows that that's not where they are, sort of thing. So it's like a little bit more challenging for him to get there. Does he
Yeah,
also
and
drag you during conversations? Yeah.
all the time, always. But wait, Fun Show was saying, I'm really interested in working with God, but I have a really hard time staying committed to things. It's not about being committed to things; it's about being committed to God. Okay, so like you can do what like I am literally a prime example of the most trash ass at like standard habits and like
Yeah.
rituals. I was like, God, we're gonna do tarot every day. No, I was like, God, we're gonna do. I keep switching it up so much that God's like, if we do tarot at all, I'm fucking happy at this point. Like, because I'm just like, oopsie doopsie. Like, I'm very bad at sticking to things, but I'm always chattering to God, and I'm always thinking about theology and thinking about other things like that, and like trying to understand Him more. That's really what you got to stay committed to is Him, not like
Yeah, not
any
the
frivolous specific like thing.
no, there's really like, as much as the Bible can be a tool and as much as like it's great, like, like go into your Bible app every day and read a verse, if ultimately all you're doing in the morning is saying like, hey God, thanks for waking me up, and then at night being like, thanks God for today, like you're set. Like that's really like
Mm.
all you, like ultimately all you need to do is have that recognition that he's in your life, kind of thing.
Yeah, like he's honestly like way more low maintenance than people think. That's like what
Yeah, I
shocks me is
mean,
like he's way more chill than people think.
I think he's like high low maintenance because he's definitely high maintenance in the sense like he's not like Loki, where like Loki's like, yeah, he's more like kind of like rigidity, like not rigidity, but very much like structured kind of feeling. But he's also like
Mm.
not going to like be like, your ideas are stupid, don't try that kind of thing. He's like, if you have good intentions, do it, see what happens. Like you learn. He's very much, and this
Oh,
is
that's
something
yeah.
I learned about him, like I learned this about him in my evangelical church, that he is the kind of dad that you'll be like, hey dad, like I really want to touch the stove, like I know you tell me not to, but it looks so exciting when like the rings get red, I just want to touch it. And he'll be like, you know what, you're gonna get hurt, but if you really need to touch it, you could touch it, I'll be here to help you afterwards, but like you could touch it, but it's not a smart idea, kind of thing. Like he's very much that parent. um I love that
No, and I
about
love
him.
that. Like I didn't realize that because it's always like, oh, God's gonna say no and this and that. And like the only time God's told me no is when he's like, you already said that this is something you don't do, so don't do it. And I'm like,
Yeah, he
fair.
affirms boundaries.
True.
He
So
very
it's
much
like, and then
affirms
after when
boundaries.
eventually when I come to understand my boundaries and they shift a little bit, then he's like, okay, go ahead. But like, it's all about like that's the thing. God's very much about you experiencing the world and learning things through experience. God doesn't really necessarily ask you to take his word for it. That's why like when covenants get broken, like that's why sinning means to like miss the mark. Like you fuck it up and then you just get
Yeah,
back
you
on
just try
track.
again. No, that's that. And that's like, I mean, that can go into the whole story of the prodigal son, where like, the father had two sons, and one of his sons was demanded that the father give him his inheritance before he died. So the father gave the son the inheritance, and the son went off and like spent all the money and ended up being like a servant and not like eating food. So he said to himself, I'm just gonna go back to my dad. And he went back to his dad, and he says to his father, like, I'm so sorry, dad, I've sinned against heaven and I've sinned against you, but please, like, accept me to be your servant. At least let me do that for you. And his father just accepted him back with open arms and like brought him back into the house and threw a
Mm.
huge party for him and like slaughtered the fattened calf to like, celebrate him. And the first son, who was loyal to the father, got jealous and says to his dad, like, why are you doing this for my brother? My brother betrayed you. And the dad says, like, You know, like your brother is gone. Now he's back. He was dead and now he's alive. That is what we are
Mm.
celebrating. We are not celebrating the loyalty. We're celebrating the choice of him coming back, kind of thing. And that is such
Yeah.
a powerful story to think about. And it's very much God's character where he like you can misstep, you can go so far out of your covenant with him and kind of be like, oh shit, like my bad, I'm sorry, and run right back. And he'll be like, hell yeah. That's like, again, like in Luke, um, the whole verse is about the lost sheep, right? That heaven rejoices off of out of more for one sinner who repents versus 99 righteous people who already have repented. Like it's more important for
Right.
them to see that one person to like, you know, to change the script and change their life kind of thing. So that's like
Yeah,
it's
because
I don't know, it's really cute.
it's about learning.
Changing.
Like, no one, like nobody is perfect. No one's expected to be perfect. It's just expected that like you came, you saw, you figured it out. Like,
Yeah. No, it's just, and that's like, and that's what Divine Light decides. Trying to, they said that they're trying to be thankful for everything that comes their way, kind of thing, like every piece of income that comes their way. That is so important. That is so important. Like God, like
mm,
I feel like the biggest thing for magic with God, or even just like having a relationship with God in general, is learning how to be thankful through all situations. And like literally, like all situations. It could be like you're in pain every single day of your life, but still being thankful to wake up in the morning, kind of thing. I think that's ultimately what's
exactly,
most
yeah.
important. It reminds me of the verse that says having faith. Yes, that is the Jesus says that. He says that like you need to have just, you know, as long as you have size of faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, kind of thing. And that's like, you know, a mustard seed, if you've seen it. I
Yeah,
used
it's
to go to
so
church
small.
with somebody who had a mustard seed glued in her Bible, but it's literally like the size of one of these little like sprinkles on my finger. It's like
Yeah.
so small, and just you just need to have that little bit of faith, and you can move mountains with that. That's an incredible verse. How do you feel about Satan?
See,
We've all had interactions with Satan because Satan just means the adversary. So anytime something like happens that's like kind of like against your purpose in your life, that's you encountering Satan. I literally had an encounter with Satan today because I was trying to record the podcast with a guest and it would not connect. The microphone would not connect to the computer. Like it would not pick up any volume. We were like sitting there for like 15 minutes almost trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, kind of thing. And I'm like, look, the devil works hard, but Jesus works harder because we got the episode done. So there we go. Like I feel like that right there is an encounter with Satan because it's an encounter with somebody like who's actively trying to push me away from my purpose. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I mean that makes sense to me. I know you're asking the other person, but that makes sense to me. Also, for me, it's like again, it's literally just like it's a title that gets applied to multiple actual angels. I also know that at this point, Christianity has kind of created a thought form that is Satan, and
Yeah.
people have a lot of interesting ideas about what he does and who he is. Every time I look at the left-hand path, people who talk about Satan, I'm like, because they're like Satan's a liberator, and I'm like, no,
He's just the adversary.
he's
It's
just
just
there to push
opposite.
back, like literally, like,
But
and I don't hold it against him. I don't think that Satan's like a bad thing. Like I just think that like rightfully, you're like, I'm gonna do this, and he pushes back and says, okay, what if I put a stumbling block in your way? Can you still do it? Like
mm-hmm.
that's good. You need those kinds of tests because they test if you're actually worth the fucking, weight of your words.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I really just at this point in my life see Satan as like an adversary. And like, I don't think it's one, like you said, I don't think it's one kind of thing. It's very much like, how can you continue to move forward through hard challenges in your life? How can you continue to grow kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Like if you fumble it every time someone pushes back and says no, you're not going to do that. If you just like crumble every time, it's like
That's not how it's going to work. And especially like if you're a Scorpio rising or a Capricorn rising or even an Aquarius rising, you're going to have shit thrown at you every single day. You're going to be meeting that adversary every day. You can't crumble. Like it's just
see
not how it works.
Sagittarius rising perks. I avoid the adversary all the time somehow. I'm
Literally,
just like,
because you have Jupiter joy. Because Sagittarius is ruled by the planet of Jupiter, which rules over abundance and joy and luck and all the good things in life. So
and
like
I'm
you
just
just like
like, eh.
blessed. But people like me who are Scorpio risings, We get to meet the adversary every day. Some days every 5 minutes of that day. And it's great.
Woo! Multiple times.
It's
Wait,
like,
what's the biggest
Lord,
challenge?
for
Was when someone
a
says,
new Christian witch. What's the biggest challenge for a new Christian witch? She's saying that she's an old
"Oh,
Christian, but a new witch. Removing the fear from your faith. I think that's the biggest challenge is letting go of that fear. I talk about it in a podcast episode called Faith Without Fear. And basically looking for verses in the Bible that affirm God's love versus affirm his fear is what helped me kind of thing.
mm.
So that's my opinion is removing that fear from the faith.
No, absolutely." Because like it's really easy to be like, especially because it's like now you are messing with the things that made up your nightmares as a kid, like all the shadows
Yeah.
and all the ghosts and all the spooky things and all these like now you have to figure out how to like not only identify them but get rid of them, block them. Like it's kind of spooky, but also personally for me, the hardest thing is seeing what is left of your social circles after you explain yourself. Like, a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't
Mm-hmm.
want to get it. And it's going to cause, especially the more you wake up and the more that you see the real Jesus and the real God, the less you're going to be able to tolerate false doctrine and the less people are going to like when you call them out on it. You're going to be like Jesus and that you're going to be running around on the edge of society with maybe a couple loyal people and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, that's really it. Like understanding that it's not a glamorous thing to like live this kind of lifestyle, especially if you grew up in a very like evangelized society. Um, it might feel very isolating, and that's why like online spaces like the ones that you're creating, Sarah, and the ones that I'm creating are really important
Mm,
for people like us because ultimately in real life it might be really challenging to find like those like personally like outside of my family I don't have real life friends because they don't get
mm.
it like kind of thing and I'm not the type of person to fit myself into a box for other people. And unfortunately, it's resulted in me not having many real life friends. But I would prefer that because at least the people that I surround myself with in real life are authentic, and the people that I surround myself with online are authentic as well because I'm cultivating a very specific kind of circle. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's also like really important to like remember is that like Jesus says it himself. Like the path to righteousness is a narrow path. Not many people are going to be walking it. You know, the path to destruction is wide. That's what many people are doing in this earth. And it's not just even from an evangelical sense of like, oh, they're sinning. No, they're just being egotistical. They're being prideful. They're being self absorbed, sort of thing. When you're
Yeah, they're
deciding to
refusing to
be
listen.
they're refusing to listen. They're refusing to open their eyes. And that's not saying that you and I have all the answers because we don't. We're
Oh no.
humans, like kind of thing. But I think the advantage that we have over evangelical Christians is the openness to like be like, I'm not right about 100% of everything. And I'm willing to learn kind of thing. So surrounding yourself with people like that, even if it's just online, I feel like is really, really, really important. So I'm going to do a quick shameless plug. I have a free Discord group. Sarah's actually in it, and it's like a little church for Jesus witches and for people who believe like us. So if you are curious to join us there, you can click the link in my bio and find it by scrolling down to where it says "Connect with me," and you'll find it there.
It is very
Um,
cool. I love like how it's organized with all like the like there's places for people to recommend resources and books. There's places for people to talk about like daily life. Like it's not just all about witchcraft and nothing else.
no,
It's like religion, pets, family, like stuff that happened to you today. Like it's a
yeah,
space to just talk and be yourself.
it's cool. It's really well organized. I'm going to give credit for the organization to my church tech support, Charlie. They're probably still hanging out here. They did all of the revamping of everything before they came in. It was like a clusterfuck, but they definitely like made it all nice and organized. So yeah, they did really good. But it's a really fun community to just come and hang out with. And like Sarah said, we don't just talk about like Jesus witchery. We talk about a lot of things. My favorite channel to hang out with in recently has been the local Virgo came in and reorganized everything. The best part about Charlie is I
So good too.
like they and I know each other from not witchy things, and then they like joined the Jesus World church group, and I'm like, hey Charlie, you want to organize this shit? They're like, yeah. So that's how it worked. Um, But no, it's a great Discord server. I like literally like I feel like I spend most of my time in like the non-witchy channels. Like I love the fandom chat. We've been like obsessing over Taylor Swift for like 3 weeks now. It's great. So like whatever you want to talk about in there, you can talk about kind of thing. It's so fun. Um, but
Do you know
yeah,
anything about Abramelin the Mage?
no,
No, I do not. I'm very
that's a
much
cool
just
name.
like, here's my Bible and my basil, and there you go. Like, yay.
I got the
I don't
Bible
I
and the
don't
basil and I shake it all up kind of thing.
I don't like ceremony magic's cool and like all these different schools of thought are cool, but I'm very much just like magic for me is just a way to reclaim a little bit of control
Yeah.
in things that are uncontrollable. So like all of the ceremonials is very cool, but I'm just like I just want to feel good.
Yep.
Like I just want to be all
I
right.
I literally like posted a video, I think today about that, like, or like, you know, like basically saying like, um, or I feel like I was talking about it today, where a lot of people like have these beautiful ritual like things on TikTok, like the Stitching Witch. I love B. I
Oh,
love their
she's
content
damn. She's
so.
they. I'm sorry, they.
I think they go by she and they pronouns, so it's okay. You're technically not wrong. But
Mm.
um, they do all these like gorgeous ritualistic magic. But for me, as somebody with two kids who likes to get their hands into everything, that's not going to work for me.
Mm.
Like it's just not, and that's okay. That's not where I'm at in my magic. If maybe 5 years from now, when my kids are a little bit calmed down, maybe that's where I'll be, sort of thing. But right now, I'm not, and that's okay. And I don't think that makes me any less of a witch, sort of thing. It's really just what feeds you, you know. Oh, the book that I was fanning myself with because in New York it's ridiculously hot in November. I don't know why is the Lost Books of the Bible. I was going like that to fan myself with it because it's so hot here. Is it hot over there?
Not too bad. It's only hot because I baked bread today, so like the oven was on, but like it's okay. It's been a little
No.
chilly. It rained, so it's been a little bit warmer.
Yeah,
But
it's been
before it was
raining all
like 30
day.
degrees at night. Yeah,
No,
so
I don't know what
hopefully
it
it'll be cold
is.
again.
If it's like me, if like whatever, but like I've been like so hot. Like I don't know what it is. Have you either of you had experiences with Mary Magdalene? I have
She's a
personally
sweetheart.
not. I've not talked to her. I really respect her as the first like preacher of the gospel. I don't understand. I'm a female preacher. Why is she not reaching out to me? It's because I'm so far up Saul. That's why. I'm so far up with Paul. But
No,
that's
I
why
remember
she's
like
not reaching
once
out.
Mary Magdalene's like, Paul, but no, I talked to her once for an interview. That was really cool. She like seems like someone who you know what's funny? Ashura came with her. Actually, that was the
Yeah.
first time I'd ever seen Ashura, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I don't know why I thought it was Ashura because most people are like, "Oh, she's associated with trees," but to me, she came like a woman like without clothes, whose hair was made of fire and whose skin was like cracked with fire, and she was
Yeah.
just like, "Hello," like she was standing over Mary Magdalene, like, "What's up?" And I was like, I
See,
think
here this
Ashura
makes
continues to do her work through them,
yeah,
like through Magdalene
this
and
makes
Virgin
sense
Mary.
to me because listen, if we're going to think that Jesus is the male God incarnate, then wouldn't it make sense that Mary Magdalene be like the female God incarnate, right? So then if we're thinking about who the
Kinda,
female
yeah.
God incarnate is or who the female God would be, it would be Asherah. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But like as the mom that I am, as you're describing how Asherah looks to you, all I can think about is Tafiti from Moana. That's it.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
know, at the
It's kind of
end,
something like that.
that's what I thought of. Um,
It was like that, which is weird because I'm like, aren't you associated with trees? But she was just there like in full blast, and like Mary Magdalene was like meeker, like she wasn't weak,
yeah,
but she was kind of like softer and like almost more like delicate. And I definitely think that like she and Jesus were like this, like absolutely. It's like they
hmm.
had such a wholesome like Jesus popped in at one point, and they were just so cute together that I was like,
I don't know. Do you
stop.
ship it? Do you think that they were like doing the things together? Do you ship it?
Um. I feel like I'm not at liberty to say, honestly, but I feel like their relationship is definitely like more than whatever like sanitized, chaste nonsense
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Bible
yeah,
makes it.
yeah. I
So,
ship it. I ship it. I definitely think Mary Magdalene and Jesus did the do at some point. Yeah.
They're very cute. I think they're just like a power couple. They're very cute and I love them. And wait, hold on, someone else
Great.
was saying
They're great, and it makes
someone
sense that they like did like, or they were like at least more bonded with each other than Jesus was with the other disciples because he appeared to her first. Like there had to have
mm,
been a reason for that, like kind of thing.
yeah.
I mean,
But someone
rabbis
was
had
saying,
to
what do
be
you recommend?
married. Wait
Yeah,
a
that too.
minute, that's a true fact.
Like, it would not make sense for Jesus to not be married in the cultural climate of his time. But all that said, someone said, where do you recommend an ex-evangelical begin with learning about witchcraft and magic? See, this is where it's like hard for me. I don't really like have any religious trauma, and I grew up in
Yeah,
a like Catholic background. So for me, it's like the ex-evangelical stuff. It's not so much about like learning about the stones and the herbs it's learning about God and
hmm,
forgetting everything that you know about him because
that's
the
why.
evangelicals fuck it up.
Yeah, that's why honestly, like, you know, when people ask me that question, I know I sound like kind of like egotistical constantly recommending my podcast, but that's why I always recommend that Faith Without Fear episode because I feel like that's where I said everything that I wanted to say about like deconstructing out of like evangelical Christianity specifically and starting to have a different kind of relationship with God. You also could read the book Jesus Through Pagan Eyes by Reverend Mark Townsend, if I remember correctly. That's a great place to start as well. But um, one, there's not many like Christian witch specific resources out there. Like obviously they're more like prevalent online. There's not a lot of like books like you and I are like great resources out here. So obviously that's like a thing to remember too. But I feel like for evangelicals specifically, a lot of it is removing that fear from faith and like you said, getting to know who God actually is versus who the church tells you he is.
Mm. One of these days, I gotta write like a resource. I gotta that'll be like I'll feel like I'm in college again. I loved writing papers and gathering resources and putting the quotes.
Yo,
Oh,
me
I cannot wait.
too. What the hell? I used to love writing papers and like when I was in college, I went to my uncle. I was in honors US history and my uncle is a US history teacher. He's a retired US history teacher now. And I went to him and I had him help me with the paper and like, oh my gosh, Sarah, he had such a good time. It was so cute writing this like essay with him. And then my professor was like, "This is the best essay I ever wrote in my life." And I'm like, "Thanks, I did it all by myself."
Yeah, no, that was like me in film class. Oh my God, listen, I'm such a shit. So like my professor, it was like a higher level class. It was like the last film class I was taking for my major. It was about film music. And my professor's like, "Okay, it's your final paper. You have to write at least 15 pages." I am the only asshole in the room who's like, "What's the maximum?" And she goes, "No one's ever asked me this question." And I'm just like, just
Oh,
cut me off because I literally like changed the font size to 11 and I got to the very edge of 25, the maximum of pages, plus the cover, plus the citations. I gave it to her and she was like, "Sorry."
what did you do here?
And I was
Why?
like, "I wrote 25 pages."
At least you
I was
weren't
going
like me
off.
in college. I used to like to, my sociology teacher, she hated me but loved me because I would challenge her so, so much. This poor
That
lady.
yeah. That was me and my history teacher cuz like I felt like I was the only one who was like conscious in history class because like everyone else was like, yeah, like slavery, and I was like, are none of y'all like reading between the lines? Like, are none of y'all like seeing what I'm seeing? Like, this country's not like awesome, dude. Like,
Oh,
we're not built in like very good like things here, and everyone else is like, anyway,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
okay, like,
Yeah. No, it was great because my like my last US history class because I dropped out after I had Scott because I said to myself I'm gonna be a homeschool mom. So I dropped out
mm,
after I had Scott. Um and so my last US history teacher, we were doing all like the Puritans and stuff and like learning a lot about like you know, because I had very much I had a specifically like a sociology major, so I had to do a lot of like history classes and a lot of like sociology classes. So he he was like super interesting in the sense that he would like present one political ideology and like get us
Mm.
all really hyped about that, and then present the exact opposite and get us all really hyped about that. And he'd be like, haha, you guys are flip flops. Wait, what?
No, I remember. Okay.
He was great.
Oh,
I
the
loved him.
that no, for me it was like I was in AP history, which is like
Yeah.
my teacher promised. He told us like, yeah, we'll read Howard Zinn alongside the school textbook. We never did, but I didn't need to because I was like, I know that this is a state assigned textbook full of horseshit propaganda. I also know that like everyone else was like, wow, and then we made the Panama Canal, and I'm like, so we went to a country that wasn't ours and we sawed it in half to go make an easier route to wherever the hell.
Yeah.
Like, okay, why are we celebrating this?
Because like they
Or
didn't
except, oh my god,
celebrate it. There's literally like
but
5 a.m. Oh my
it's
gosh,
fine.
yeah, because she started,
Europe.
she got on at 1 a.m. and we've been on here for like 3 hours.
I know shit. That's what I was about to say. I was like, oh my god, it's 11. I have to like
Yeah,
do a
we gotta go
couple
to bed.
readings. But nah, this was good. This was a good chat.
This is so
We should
fun.
do this more often. I like always see people going live, and I'm like, I should do that. But half the time, I'm in like my most redonkulous sweater, like no makeup, like completely bungled, and I'm just like,
But that's the fun part. Like I'll come on live and I'll have my like I have a sweater that says like I only like weed and my cats and maybe 3 people, and I'll have like my hoodie all the way up and I'll just eat like cookies the whole time and just be chatting. It's fun. You could come on here looking like an
fair.
absolute gremlin. Sarah, this isn't Instagram, this is TikTok.
I mean, this is right. Like, I can find maybe I should because like I keep making videos of like my thoughts on TikTok when I'm like I just pick up the camera and I'm like, guys, here's the hottest new theological thought experiment, and it's like, oh shit, wait, the brand, it's not there. No, but no, I would like to go live more often because it's fun to just like talk and chat and like hang out. I'm gonna be on TikTok anyway,
Yeah,
so I might as
right?
well.
Do something productive with it.
Now I feel like Michael's gonna be standing on my head like, oh hey, bet, like,
He's like, you learned a lot of
well,
things today, Sarah. He's like, you learned about the Bible app and you learned about being live on TikTok. Now you got to put
and
these things into practice.
I'm swinging. Don't.
He's like, no, don't. I don't want responsibilities. I have a
It's like,
Sagittarius rising.
stop.
Leave me
I
alone.
am Naruto running away. Like, but but yeah, no. So I think this is a good place to wrap it up. And with that, I guess we'll just say thank you, Lena, for joining me, and thank you everyone else for popping by. This was fun, and I will see you
Thank
guys when I
you.
see you. I guess.
All right, good night.
Oh,
Bye, friends.
bye. See ya.
Bye.